Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Councilor Harrington, Chairman Harrington's excused for this evening for a family issue, and would you all like to call the meeting to order? Would you all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, now that fall's here, we are entering into our November-December scheduling, which is the first and third Thursdays for our meetings, rather than the second and fourth, because of the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. So our next council meeting will be Thursday, November 5th, here in the Matthew Thornton Room for a regular council meeting, and on Thursday, November 19, also in the Matthew Thornton Room for a regular council meeting. Eileen?
All right. The 23rd Annual Halloween Party will take place tomorrow night, Friday, October 23rd, from 5 to 8 p.m. in the Function Hall at Wasserman Park. There will be a wide variety of games, activities, a costume contest, pumpkin carving demonstration, music with DJ Darren Roy, and much more. So for more complete details, visit the Parks and Recreation website at www.merrimackparksandrec.org or call 882-1046. The Parks and Recreation Department administrative offices will be moving back to Town Hall for the winter starting on Tuesday, October 27th, and we hope that once the function hall gets up and running, that he'll be able to stay down at Wasserman Park the whole year, because he wants to do winter activities as well. Trick or Treat will be held from 6 to 8 on Saturday, October 31st, and the police chief has said that was okay. He is in charge of holidays, so he decides for us. And he says, sometimes if we're not good, he says he's going to pull the plug on Christmas. Right? Yes. So the Merrimack Police Department will be assigning extra officers along with the police volunteers to neighborhoods for the safety of children. And that's it.
The coal trucks will arrive at your lawn if you try that one. Okay. Before we start, Tim has asked to be moved up on that schedule, so I'm going to move him up to right before our first appointment, if that's okay with everybody, which I presume it is. Thank you. Okay, Kinder Morgan, Northeast Direct Pipeline Project. As you know, we met with them at our last meeting, and we have sent a letter to FERC regarding the first proposed alternate route, not the slew of other alternates that were handed to us at the last meeting. And we also got a notice of filing of the formal application from Kinder Morgan, Tennessee Gas to FERC on they plan to file that on November 20th. Once FERC receives that, they have 10 business days to act on it. If they act on it within the 10 business days, which is roughly December the 3rd, then that starts the clock running on the 21-day filing period for intervenor status. Our attorney has been preparing our request to be designated intervenor by FERC. Some of you know that there were survey crews out in several places on Tuesday. They were not kind enough to call us and tell us that they did have permission from Eversource to be on Eversource's properties. So that was sort of straightened out after a lot of activity. And again, demonstrating they're absolutely tone deaf. Yeah.
Just to clarify, PSNH actually owns in fee certain pieces of property underneath the power lines. So that's what they have been surveying, because they have gotten permission from the property owner, who is PSNH, to go on the property. Regarding any other parcels underneath the power lines, the property underlying those easements belong to the homeowner or the business, and PSNH does not have the ability to grant Kinder Morgan or anyone who's not doing transmission work on the rights of way or easements that are under the power lines. So only on their property. If for instance, Deb, it was behind your house, the power line were behind your house, you own the property that PSNH's power line goes over, and the easement goes over, and they don't have the ability unless they contact you and you allow them to be on the property, because PSNH doesn't have the right in their easement deed or easement papers to allow them to do anything but transmission work on their easement. And that's not what Kinder Morgan's doing, or anybody really would be doing, but PSNH, Eversource, excuse me. So, is that clear? Yeah.
Okay. And at this point, sure.
Thank you. I had heard, not officially, from an official source, that Kinder Morgan had approached the Merrimack Village District. Has anyone spoken to any one of the commissioners to confirm that that is the case? And I also heard unofficially that the Water District indicated that they would only be interested in a meeting publicly with Kinder Morgan, the same as the town council did. Have you confirmed that, Eileen?
I spoke to Ron Miner, who's the chief executive officer, I guess you'd call it, of MVD, and he said that they had received a formal request from Kinder Morgan to attend one of their meetings, and the commissioners have not set that meeting date. It will be public, and he will give me a call, or if I'm not here, he'll give Paul a call, and you will all be notified.
Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Dan?
After last week, when Kinder Morgan first came in, obviously we were all taken aback by the different changes in the maps. And a lot of things were said, and a lot of things were unsaid, because I for one wasn't prepared for the change that had come forward. So I've had 2 weeks to chew on everything that had transpired in the last couple of weeks. I haven't really felt good about it, so I wanted to share that with you and how I feel. I'm not sure I'm looking for a motion at the end of my little speech here, or I'm looking more for some feedback of the rest of you, because it's really all that matters to me at this point. I'd like to try and set a different tone. 2 weeks ago and almost a month ago, we were all united in the tone of the land survey being take it or leave it, backed at 100%. And now a month has come by, and I have to say I have somewhat of a change of heart, and I'd like to try and explain where I'm coming from. The take it or leave it attitude worked at the time, and now I just not sure if that attitude and philosophy is doing us any good. I want to have more of an open dialogue with these people. If you feel like it's inevitable, and I could be the doom and gloom guy up here all the time, that I've always said from the beginning that was what my fear was, that this type of project is a Keystone Pipeline-like project that can't be stopped by the president. So if the Department of Energy wants this thing built, it seems to me that that's what's going to happen. When I brought up the survey agreement at the meeting, I kind of got a little flack from management, AKA my town chair and vice chair. And I was kind of taken aback by that at the time because I said, well, wait a minute, this was billed as a workshop. So to me, everything was on the table as far as discussion goes. So if I offended anybody or I said something out of place, it came from the perspective that this was a workshop and I want to talk about just everything that there was. So here we are a month later with still no survey signed. And I'm just not sure if the take it or leave it philosophy works for me anymore, as far as I would like to have a different philosophy, a different, hopefully, openness. There seems to be a new team from Kinder Morgan trying to make different strides. They're trying to make up for maybe past people that didn't perform so good on their own. So there's a lot of baggage, a lot of bad blood, a lot of baggage over the past almost a year since this whole thing has started. So I'm trying not to blame new people for the sins of other people from their company. So that's the theme of what I'd like to have, and that's just basically giving some guidance to Eileen, because right now her guidance was get the heck out. The survey agreement was take it or leave it. We've got nothing else to say. When I'm done spewing here, I'd like to hear some feedback from you guys. But I just don't think in anything in life, whether it's your kids, your parents, your job, if you become so rigid and take it or leave it, I just don't see as my 52 years of age as if that's ever served me well in the long term. And we are at the 11th hour of this project. And they're human just like us. And when we get nasty, they can be nasty back. They've got power behind them to be nasty. And if they can say, well, we're going to put this darn thing wherever we want it, and I don't want that to happen. So maybe some of us are claiming, well, Dan, you're being too nice, you're trying to let them off the hook. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying I just hope that we can reset button, something about how we're talking to them, how we can let them in to talk, and the acrimony I just wish could end. And then my final thing. I was really shocked and taken aback by the citizens that night, and I'm forced to say it because it's who I am. But when people start using the word Nazis and start throwing around that term, I'm going to have to remind people how inappropriate and how embarrassing that was for me. When the Nazi Party in Germany, as everybody knows, was responsible for the extermination of 6 million Jews, in World War II, I believe, was over 30 million dead. It's totally inappropriate to call people who live or work in this community, just because you don't like their company, to make references to that word and that group, Nazis. It's inappropriate. And I wish I had kicked myself for 2 weeks because I sat here quiet and I regretted it every day that I didn't speak up and call that person out for using it because it was wrong. You don't know what Jewish people look like, do you? Because it isn't as easy as an Asian or a black person. It could have been people from Kinder Morgan of Jewish heritage sitting at that table that night. So that was an embarrassing night for me. I didn't think the meeting went that well, and I'd like to move forward. And again, thank you for the time to speak my mind.
Sure. Eileen, is there anything further on that agreement?
The last that I have heard was they were trying to work, there were two topics, two issues. One related to the real stickler is what is it called? Confidentiality agreement that all of a sudden popped up a few months ago. And Joanna has advised us that we should just say that we will abide by state laws as it relates to that. And that's a big sticking point. And the other one had to do with, what it had to do with is, this is really a no-brainer. If we made sure that we put in the document that if Kinder Morgan were to access the roadways or the road rights-of-way, that they would not go beyond what looks like a road or a sidewalk and get into somebody's lawn and, that kind of thing, even if it were the town's road right-of-way. And they said, well, what if somebody gave us a survey agreement? So they want us to put in writing that if they have a survey agreement, that does not apply to them. So, I mean, to me, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And it goes without saying. So anyway, so the latest I heard is that that's the confidentiality agreement is required by the federal government because there's certain things that need to be redacted, as we know from the reports, and some of that it relates to endangered species and that kind of thing. So if you're interested, I think that there could be a creative way to get around that by having them redact that information or give it to Joanna or just give it to Tim Tenhave or whatever it is, because he doesn't want that information getting out either. So that's where it is.
Finley?
I hate to say it, but I disagree with the first part of your conversation. And the reason is because of the amount of time and effort that we have put into that. I should know, but I'm about $250 an hour. So another change of a letter is probably another $250. And I think we've given them all their due. Numerous changes, trying to accommodate their things. And then, of course, as you'll recall, they come up with something totally different to complain about that had been addressed in the first one. And so, I think, our job, as you've pointed out, FERC makes the final decision. Our job has been to point out where we see as impediments to that project, our environmental concerns, against neighborhood concerns, schools, and all those things. And I think by us having focused so diligently on that, we've done a good job in that regard. And I believe that the original route proposed will be the ultimate path that they're going to take. And so we had focused hard on that. So if it wasn't so many times that we modified that agreement, then I might have been on board with you. But I think we did, in fact, do what you've asked for again tonight. And so that's.
I guess what I'm hoping for, what I believe I'm trying to see, maybe I'm being optimistic. If you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I agreed. I told this to Eileen. I always thought all along that the power line corridor was going to be their number one option. Now I'm just not so sure. I actually believe, and don't laugh, I believe they are trying not to go to the Whittier neighborhood. I actually believe it now. I believe that the options that they're presented are realistic. Options such as going behind Fidelity, going up Route 3. I believe they are listening to us. And my fear is that I don't want to shut us down to that open communication and a willingness to work with them if we can persuade them to stay out of Whittier. And I think we can. I think it's the 11th hour, and if we have a better relationship with them, I think that mission can be accomplished. Now, some people might say at the expense of neighborhoods on Tinker Road. Of course, that's the whole point of pitting one route against the other. But if we're in a best-case scenario, the least affected homes, and their process seems to say that they don't mind the railroads and the roads, and the business community seems to be more conducive to saying yes than, say, neighborhoods, then the Route 101A and Continental Boulevard, backdoor Fidelity, the BAE thing is on the schedule. The metering station is still up in the air. It could be the Budweiser property. It could be our property. It could be at the sewer treatment plant if you look at as the bird flies. So there's options on the table that I feel if we had a more of an open dialogue and not so much judgmental. I've been judgmental with the best of them, with all you guys. We've been united every time. And I'm not, like I said, tonight wasn't me to make a motion to count votes on a change of strategy. It's more of just a different way to talk. And maybe if we're that close, I really believe for the first time that Whittier could be off the map. If we have a dialogue of nudging them to go in another spot. I wouldn't have said that 2 months ago. I would have thought it wasn't possible.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've spent the last 2 weeks thinking about that meeting as well, Dan. And my response to you about having a new approach or a more willingness to collaborate with Kinder Morgan in this pipeline is really, I look at it from two perspectives. The first perspective is everything hinges on what FERC decides the route to be. And if you accept the premise that they're going to use the original route that they proposed, I agree with Finley. I think we need to stand by what we said as it relates to the survey agreement, because we drafted and crafted that survey agreement predicated on that original route. But I agree with you with the change that if they're really sincere about wanting to avoid the neighborhoods, then I think we do need to have an open mind as to how that route impacts Merrimack. It may mean that we have to do a brand, and I hate to say this, considering all the hours that we've tied up council with crafting a survey agreement, and maybe it's just a matter of removing the 4 properties and putting in whatever impacted property is on the new route. But that being said, spent a lot of time on that survey agreement, and until I think we see a route, I have to accept what they proposed as the original route. And I would say we need to tell them that's the survey agreement that we are willing to ask Eileen to sign, and we're asking you to sign. And until we are shown a different route that they're going to submit to FERC, and that they're quite honestly honest and transparent, because everything to now, they haven't given me any reason to believe anything that they have to say. They've been in our community and the 16 other communities for the last 5 months, and now they've got to make a filing based on the information we have on November 21st, 20th. So they've got less than a month now to come up with something, and yet they've been futzing around for the last 5 months. In my opinion,
I know.
Not collaborating with us, not collaborating with our business owners, not collaborating with the surrounding towns, and the properties that are proposed to be impacted by that particular route. They've had 5 months to do all this work, and in my opinion, Dan, from where I sit, they haven't done the work.
I'm trying to take a different approach.
And I agree with
you. So just allow me 30 seconds to say, I think we maybe have been looking at the wrong angle by saying this one approach, Plan A was the power line corridor, and then all these changes, and we've gotten upset about Plan A, Plan 2, Plan 7, there's 7, 8 different lines. But then the more you look at what they're supposed to do, I came to the conclusion that that's the nature of their job. They're actually supposed to do that. They're supposed to come up with, when they first bought into New Hampshire versus Massachusetts, here's our Plan A. But then their due diligence was to come up with a dozen different paths. I really believe that's what.
No, they were ordered by FERC.
Well, but
They
they've
were
done
ordered
this.
by
This is part of
FERC.
their nature of their business.
Right.
They're ordered by FERC to come up with. So in a way, they've done what they were supposed to do. We're seeing it as, they're always changing things, and I'm falling into the same trap. But the more I think about the process of what they're supposed to do and what they're supposed to do for FERC under FERC guidelines, they're supposed to offer and supposed to show FERC, look, here's 10 different routes.
And what I would
And
say,
then at the end of the day, they're going to give you what they think is their best one.
and what I'm saying to you, Dan, is that they've had 5 months to present those 10 different routes. They've had numerous opportunities that they've squandered to be transparent and work with the community that, quite honestly, there's a lot of, as you know,
how
the
long
people.
it takes to build a house? You know how long it takes to get things done? Maybe 5 months isn't that long. I don't. You say they had 5 months, but
Well,
5
all right,
months.
all right.
But what I would say, if I could, to complete.
Just let's,
It's the dialogue. That's all I wanted for this
Okay.
But
part was to think a little bit differently than I've been thinking for the past 5 months.
By
and I
not-
feel like that kind of thinking has gotten us nowhere.
But I feel
All right, zip it.
by not communicating with us and other communities over the last 5 months, that a lot of the fears that the people have had in our community and the other communities, would that fear go away if they were transparent earlier on? I don't know. Probably not. But at least people would have an understanding of how they're approaching the different routes that they're proposing. And at least people would be informed, and they, it's not going to eliminate the fears, but at least people are going to be informed about what they're proposing, as opposed to coming to us, like you said, at the 11th hour at a town council meeting and presenting us a route that we had no clue, and we were ill prepared because we were focused on the other route.
All right,
We were-
enough.
I'm just saying.
Enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're getting way off what the issues are with the survey agreement. Way off. There's 2 issues left. That's all. 2 issues left. The confidentiality piece, and what was the other one? Right, yeah, okay, yeah, the access to other to adjoining properties. Okay? Those are the only 2 things left. That's it. And if they want to turn over a new leaf, they could have tried that on Monday morning or Tuesday morning by picking up the phone and making a simple phone call. Hey, we're going to have crews out there tomorrow or today, and I'll be over to drop off the authorizations from Eversource. Okay? Instead, they showed up, and then we're scrambled around, and they show up in the afternoon with the authorizations from Eversource. Okay, so it's a two-way street, Dan. It's a two-way street, and we haven't seen anything coming the other way. Jody?
Thank you. No surprise. I could not disagree with you more, Dan. I really think it's, I don't want to call anybody names, I really think it's very naive to think that we could go forward. And I heard a lot of language about your feelings and trusting and kinds of stuff. But this is business. This is totally business, and I know you get that. I think it's very naive it would be very naive of us to think that if we agreed to those 2 points that they're going to sign the agreement and come on. As Tom said, they've had that opportunity for months. We've been playing this game for months, and you said that you wanted to take a different approach, that you don't want us to be nasty. I think we've been anything but. I think we've been incredibly accommodating and willing and open to try and work with them. So I don't think that's the case at all. And I don't think it's fair play or good faith negotiations when they come to the table with a route that we have not seen prior to this public meeting, knowing that we're here to discuss a meeting. So I don't think they're exhibiting any of the good faith negotiation efforts, Dan, that we are personally. I really don't. So I know I've told you guys all this before, I have no interest in revisiting this. I honestly don't believe it would accomplish anything anyway. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for hearing me out.
Tom?
Everybody gets their 2 cents.
We'll put a jar out here.
I'm gonna. I guess I tend to lean more with Dan than not, although I understand everybody's thoughts and frustrations. I'm not excited about reopening negotiations. If for some reason we heard that there's federal law that requires that they keep certain stuff confidential that we don't have by state law the opportunity to keep confidential, I'm okay with them redacting that from what they give us. And if that allows them to sign the agreement, fine. I mean, I'm willing to open it that far that they can make some tweak or adjustment to that effect, saying that, we're not going to make you sign the confidentiality agreement, but we'll withhold the information that federal law requires we withhold. The idea of modifying the language so that they can go on somebody's property who has an agreement, I think that's ludicrous, as Eileen's already said, and so I don't think we need to bother with that. I think they're just looking for things to be able to talk about. But I'm not anxious to spend a lot of more money with the attorney. Finley, I agree. Anytime we talk to her, it costs a lot of money, and we've gone too far, and we've told them that. Now they're coming back saying, well, we need to talk to her one more time. Well, that one more time goes to 2 and 3 and 4, and there's only so much of that we want to do. So if they come back sincerely, although as Tom has alluded, they probably won't, with something they're willing to sign that has minor changes or tweaks, I'm all for signing that and moving forward with it, just so that they can't go to FERC and say they slammed the door in our face and we can't do anything. Even if it was 11 months out of 12 into the road, before we slam the door. I mean, I kind of, like you're saying, I don't want to take that attitude that just says there's no way you're going to talk to us, we're not there anymore. But I'm not anxious to spend a lot of money trying to chase them either.
Eileen?
I think the last correspondence that I received from Joanna on this is that they've washed their hands of her and that they want to come to talk to you. And I said to Joanna, the council or myself are not attorneys, and we can't, we're not qualified to modify the agreement.
Well, yeah, and it goes, we've run into this before, only it was with union negotiations, where they thought that everything that the town manager was telling them about what we were proposing were his ideas and not ours. And they wanted to do the same thing. And we told him, he's the guy. And we tell him what we want him to do, and that's what he's giving you.
Just to clarify, my crux of the matter wasn't about renegotiating the survey agreement. That's my crux was really about having more of an impact on getting them to put the pipeline in a different location, mainly out of the neighborhood, out of the Whittier Place corridor. It looked like the last couple of options that they provided for us gave that out. So that was more of my focus on wanting to not be perceived as shutdown mode.
We haven't shut down
Well,
anything.
maybe it's just my perception.
We haven't.
So-
We have not.
That's all. It looked like an opportunity to get it out of Whittier from their own map, from their own drawing. And if I would like to know that we would be able to communicate with them in an effort to say, yeah, we would prefer if you could go down that way instead, that would be great.
I think that's what we did when they were here the other night. We told them the issues that we had with certain locations of the pipeline. And I don't know how I could sit up here and say, you can't go next to the Whittier houses, but it's okay if you blast through those houses on Tinker and Thornton. I personally can't do that, Dan. I think that's exactly what we did when they were here that night. We told them our concerns about the potential impacts that it would have, even with the route. We're scrambling, trying to tell them about the impacts for the route that they showed to us right before the meeting started. So I believe that's what we did. But if you're talking about us supporting a one route over the other, then I'm
No.
Well, but that's what it sounded like you just said. That's exactly what it sounded like. And I'm not interested in it. I don't speak for everybody here, but I think that's a really, really, we've talked all along about how dangerous that could be for us.
Yep.
And all the issues that it could have for us. In addition to that, I think you're throwing one person under the bus for another. And I, in good conscience, can't do that.
We haven't asked them anything more than was asked of them in other communities to deviate the route. Not one thing that we presented to them as concerns or issues was new to them at all. So, they took it upon themselves to go down and talk to those people down there, and they made arrangements with them to go down and talk to them about it. It's their property. It's not our property. It's their property. And one of the things that I think they want us to do is to, oh yeah, we want this route, so that when they go to the hearings, they can say, hey, they said this one.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and and that's the knife edge that we're walking on right now, is that particular issue. Okay, and we just said no, we're not going to give you a route. We're going to give you our concerns. Here's the areas we want you to avoid, and that's what we've done. Just like they did in Amherst, just like they've done in other towns like Winchester, and other towns on the route in New Hampshire. So we have been more than cooperative in some aspects of this, okay? And, it's just that some of the demands they were making on the survey agreement were things that we felt were not in our best interests. And like we tell everybody else, you got to protect your own property, because we can't do it for you. well, we've got to protect our property because they can't do it for us. And that's our responsibility. So that's where we are. Anything else, Eileen? No, we're going to move on.
I know. I don't know what my role is anymore. Two representatives came into my office on Friday and just dropping by, wanting to say hello and talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. And somebody came into Paul's office the other day also, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to just tell them I can't talk to them, or am I supposed to, what is my role now?
Depends on your schedule, I would think.
I mean, I have nothing to say to them.
That's it.
They shouldn't be allowed to drop in. First of all, no one should be allowed to just drop in on either one of you without an appointment. I wouldn't come in without telling you ahead of time and setting up a time that I knew was convenient for you. I wouldn't do that. They've got no business doing that. Turn them away. If they have something new, something specific that they feel they need to communicate, get that information up front before you agree to meet with them. Who knows if they'd have something that they haven't talked to us about before. And then I think you talked about having them just reach out to Nancy. I think that's a great idea. Say, here's Nancy's phone number. Talk to Nancy. We've got budgets. We've got all kinds of things coming up, Eileen. You're going to be very, very busy. You don't have the time for that, and I don't think you should have to put up with it. That's my opinion.
I haven't disagreed with that. You and I had that discussion. We've had that discussion
Yeah.
over the last several weeks.
You know, as I said, it's not really that I have very open door policy, so I allow anybody who's interested to come into my office. But I have nothing to say. I'm not authorized to say anything. I'm not. My position doesn't allow me to have an opinion, even if I had one. So, right? So I guess politely, I just have to tell them that I can't talk to them. That they need to talk to the council or Nancy, right? Is that right?
That would make life easier for you, I suspect.
Well, yeah, it would be, except that we've just said that we're not interested in meeting with them over the survey agreement.
Why can't they could come and meet with us? You know, they could, again, request an agenda item. I don't think we've ever said we weren't willing or amenable to meeting with them. They want to bypass Joanna. They want to request an agenda item and come sit with us and talk about it. They can do that, right?
Do you know
I
how many,
wouldn't stop them.
do you know how many emails we've gotten from Eileen throughout the day that said such and such has showed up, and she's explained to them that they can set an item on the agenda if they so please? And
Yeah,
how long is she going to be a parent?
They're playing games.
Well, they've been given direction. They've been given instructions, but no direction. Okay, get this done. At least that's what it sounds like. And so, all right, we're beating this to death.
I actually have,
What else?
I actually have a question.
Oh, good, a question.
What else? God, I feel the love. I feel the love, Mr. Chairman.
Well, my apologies if I wasn't conveying that at the point. It was just exasperation at this point. I'm sorry about that.
Thank God this
You
isn't
have
a
a question.
Benghazi hearing.
You have a question, right?
Lovable guy that you are.
I last weekend when Kinder Morgan came with the change of the route, I actually have a friend that lives down on Thornton Road West and had concerns about the route, so I went down to talk with him and show him the route, and he had communicated to me that part of the property owned by Penachuk has an easement with the Society for the Preservation of Forests. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and if you, I called Don Ware yesterday to find out where exactly those easements are, because they're not on all parcels or all on a whole parcel as part of parcels. So when I was matching them up to our map, I realized that the map that we get from, the last map that we got from NRPC actually shows those easements. So where you see the green on the Pennachuck parcels, those are the easements. So that pointed piece that kind of sticks up at the bottom of Fidelity's property, that is all under easement. And also some underneath Continental Boulevard is part of the easement. So you will be able to see it very clearly because, you know, as I said, Paul and I matched them up to make sure that that's what that was.
And that was covered in the AG's letter.
I remember the AG's letter, I just did not know to what extent they had easements in that area.
A fair number, because when they offered those properties to us, they were going to ask us for some considerations on that regard. Wasn't that right? Because you and I went and met with them. And instead, they did what they went to the society and made agreements with them to try and protect the land in those areas. And those haven't been on that long. Okay, they've only been on
It's
there.
very tough to get around them, too.
Oh, yeah, it is, you know. And so, anyway, yeah, that's accurate.
Well, I will. For some reason, I thought that the society's interest was the land on the backside of Pennachuck Square where I didn't realize it went on the other side of the brook and went far north into beyond
No,
Tinker
all
Road.
those- all
Yeah,
those-
I didn't know that.
All
so.
those properties up there, they were looking at trying to go, well, no, they approached us about taking them over.
Right.
Hopefully as conservation land. And when that didn't, when that, after we talked to them, they went to the society and did it that way instead. There was, 2 years ago, there was a notice in there was an article in the paper about them doing, setting that land aside and making an agreement with the society for the preservation of New Hampshire forests to protect it.
Didn't have to do with the airport?
Pardon? Yeah. So,
Just for some reason, I thought it was south of Tinker Road, and I just wanted to clarify. So
no,
thank you.
it runs through that whole watershed.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right, being done with this. No, I didn't say that. Although the motion to adjourn is non-debatable. Comments from the press and public.
Gina Rosati, 15 Dunbarton Drive, and formerly from Newton, Massachusetts. Do you know where Newton, Massachusetts is?
Which one?
Councilor
College.
Dwyer?
Which one?
I'm not supposed to engage with the
Newt-
public. This is your dime.
Newton, Massachusetts is the home to many, many Holocaust survivors, including my kindergarten best friend's parents were both Auschwitz survivors. There's so many Holocaust survivors there that they designated one entire wing of the City Hall just to a Holocaust memorial. So I'm very, very vested and concerned about the Holocaust. And if somebody was sitting there tonight or somebody from Kinder Morgan is not proud of what they're doing, I did not say they were Nazis. I was making comments about war. I was making comments about the Nazis' role in the war, about bringing in poison gas, about taking things that are not theirs. If I struck a nerve, I'm sorry. That was not what I came up here originally to say. What I came up here originally to say was that I called FERC and I asked them about the scoping session. And the thing with the scoping session is even though it's over, people can still send in letters. They said that they've received an unprecedented amount of letters. They said that they will be looking very closely at this. I asked them, do we have a chance? They said, yes, you do have a chance, because this has been the most controversial pipeline that they have ever worked on. They've received more letters than any other pipeline that they've worked on. So they said, keep the letters coming. They want to know what's going on. And one of the things that I also learned was that every letter that you send gets put into a different pile. So if you're concerned about water, you send a letter about water quality. If you're concerned about, clean air, you send one about air. But every letter should be something different, which I wish I had known, because the last letter I sent had about 18 different topics on there, and I could have put it on 18 different letters. So keep sending letters in, and we have a year. They will listen to us until that comes up. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.
Hi, Deborah Huffman, 60 Amherst Road. First of all, I'm pleased. From what I just heard, I think what I understand now is they've agreed to have a town representative with them when they do the surveys on our land, because that was the big sticking point a few months ago. That was a huge sticking point. We kind of held our ground. No, we have to be present to know that you're actually doing blah, blah, blah. From what I just heard, they've agreed to that now. That would be fabulous. That would be some progress. I know you don't want to answer, but if they have agreed to that, then good. Then they have shown some good faith, because really that was our main sticking point a few months ago, is we need to be present to make sure they're on the right property, doing the right things, that what the results that they give us are appropriate for what they actually were supposed to be doing. I think it was a reasonable request we were making. We'd bent over backwards on many other things. That was kind of something we stood our ground on, and I was happy that we were doing that. So I hope that I correctly understood that they have now accepted that. Secondly, it's interesting that it sounds to me, again, like the attorney has advised you that we do want to have intervenor status. That's interesting. I didn't know that, so I appreciate hearing that. Obviously, then she's on top of the fact that that has to happen within 21 days of Kinder Morgan filing. So she's on top of that. I don't have any particular views on that one way or the other, but I just want to make sure that that people know that there was that time frame. Third really quick thing is, if you believe, as Dan sort of indicated, that this, it may happen. I'm not going to say it's inevitable. I'm going to say there is a significant chance that this will come our way. It's only prudent this might be a very good time for staff to review our rules and regs about construction, about industrial construction. Just might be a good time for our staff to just take a peek, make sure we're up to date, make sure that we've considered all safety aspects. Just again, that's what I'm about, is just let's protect our community. This may or may not come our way, but if it does, let's make sure we're ready. Let's not be bowled over by these boys who do this for a living. And let's not be the hicks in the north who don't quite know how to handle this. Maybe this would be a good time to have staff review our rules and regs about industrial construction and make sure that we've got everything covered. And maybe we do, but this would be a really good time to just make sure we do before they file, because I don't know the rules about when rules can take effect for someone. This would just be a really good time to make sure we've got it all there in writing, understood, and correct and accurate, just to protect ourselves. So I think that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. No.
Good evening. Tim Tenhave, the chair of the Merrimack Conservation Commission. 2 points. Intervenor status, something that the commission's going to want to look at. So if you've got advice from the attorney, we'd love to see some of that. So, because it's an item we'll have to take up. The other, with the alternate route proposed, survey agreement is going to have to be put together with them as well through the commission. So, so we'll be dealing with this again. So.
Could I just mention one thing about intervenor status? I just wanted to let people know, I watched the school board meeting from this past week, and the chairman mentioned they were discussing filing for intervenor status to school district, and the chairman incorrectly stated that he believed that only public entities could file to request intervenor status, and that is not accurate. So if anybody watched the school board meeting and heard that statement, that's an inaccurate statement. Individuals, I don't know the exact criteria, but individuals who have a vested interest, I believe, right, Tom, are allowed
Yes.
to file as well. You don't have to be a public entity, so just want to make sure individual property owners are aware that they have that right to do that also. Thank you.
And understand that status isn't an open an open status. It doesn't give you free rein. It's very limited in what you're able to pursue with that intervenor status. Okay, so you need to understand that there are constraints on that. Yes.
Hi, Wendy Thomas, Wildcat Falls. Everybody needs to go buy a lottery ticket because for the first and probably last time in the world, in the universe, I agree with what Dan has to say. The Kinder Morgan meeting was disgraceful. It was disgraceful, but not because a landowner stood up and was passionate about what she perceived, what was a threat to her land, which was presented that night for the first time. The meeting was disgraceful because of the constant lies from Kinder Morgan. The meeting was disgraceful with the ambush of a new pipeline route at the beginning of the meeting. The meeting was disgraceful because of the misspeaks regarding Whittier, the Whittier neighborhood. And the meeting was disgraceful in that they did not contact the business owners, and some business owners were finding out about this pipeline at that meeting. That is why I find that meeting disgraceful. One thing that was not brought up at that meeting, and I wanted to mention it now, that one route that they were talking about, and they said they checked with the Department of Transportation, the one that ran up alongside of the mall, along Route 3 and Exit 10. If they did that, because we all know that's ledge, that's what the mall ran into, Route 3 would be shut down every time they blasted. And that would be one blast after another, after another, after another. And I don't know if you guys remember down at Exit 1 when they did all that blasting. That would tie up traffic. I cannot believe the DOT would ever authorize that. The other thing is Kinder Morgan also says that their best practices stipulate that they don't have a pipeline near a highway. So it doesn't make any sense that they would use that. The third thing I wanted to bring up with that pipeline option is that if they put that in there, Exit 10 would be closed, which at least temporarily while they did all this blasting, but blasting would take a long time, which means all of the mall traffic would be diverted to Exit 11. The Saturday morning car wash kids are going to be thrilled about that, but if you've been at Exit 11 during rush hour lately, it's a mess right now as it is. If you divert all the mall traffic to Exit 11, you're going to have a police out there with the traffic because it's going to be a constant mess. So that was not brought up at the meeting, and I wanted to make sure that it got into the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Ferrer, 7 Mary Ann Lane, Merrimack. So I had something I really wanted to talk about, but I'm going to divert for a minute. What makes a good relationship? We're all in relationships. And it really is open, honest communication. And I feel as a town and as you representing us as that town board has been more than fair, more than open with Kinder Morgan. How many months have you invited them to a meeting here to take place in public? How many times have they denied it? You know, it's the 11th hour, and who's going to blink first? That's kind of the point we're at. And I think we've stayed strong and stayed the course through this entire time, and we need to finish it. There's plenty of other opportunities to go back and forth just because the filing phase is over, if you will, for the comments that they have to respond to. Once FERC closes after they get their final submission from Kinder Morgan, there's other scoping meetings that will be held. I talked to Mr. Tomasi at length about this at the last RING meeting, that public comments were going to be opened up again, and then it goes through this whole similar process again for months, just so everybody's aware of that, before that committee of board submits it to the final FERC 5-board panel for them to make the ultimate decision. And again, we still have the federal courts as our last option. So I sent Eileen a note just before the last council meeting because I was not going to be able to be here as I was traveling for work. And it was before Kinder Morgan agreed to meet with us, so I understand why it wasn't read. But I just wanted to make note that I talked to Mr. Tomasi at length about this after the last scoping meeting in RING. And the bottom line is, and I can get into detail with this with anybody that asks, and Eileen, please feel free to share that letter with anybody that asked for it, is basically if you don't comment to FERC as either an abutter or affected property owner, they take your silence as you're okay with this pipeline, just so everybody's aware of that. I did not know that. I don't know how many people knew that. It was pretty eye-opening to me. So I just wanted to share that and make that known. And even from the last meeting with Kinder Morgan, you know, they said they were going to get you updated maps. Have they gotten you updated maps to point, to date? That was one of the things they promised up here at that last meeting, that they were going to get updated maps to you. If they can't follow up with a simple, we're going to get you updated maps, and we're going to do it by Monday, or whatever they said, what do you think is going to happen if we change this agreement? They're going to run rampant over our properties. And just so you know, they did enter my property, Eileen, specifically, and I have 5 acres of easement with the power lines on property I own, and they were on my property, and they claimed, well, we don't know where the public versus the private is. So it was a little disappointing and aggravating for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council at this time? Seeing no one, we'll move on. There are no recognitions, resignations, or retirements. And at this point, Tim, if you would come forward, we'll take you at this point to discuss the land purchase. Wishing to purchase 4 parcels of land, seeking town council approval in accordance with RSA 36A:4. How you doing, Mike? Yeah, but he bludgeoned him into this agreement. He should.
I'm going to have to wake it up, aren't I? Okay. Well,
Yeah, it's fired up, but it's not
all right.
quite projecting yet.
Well, I very much appreciate you moving us up the agenda. And I appreciate all the people in the back of the room who are putting up with me being moved up on the agenda.
It was very difficult to hear.
Yes. All right, I'll get better.
Thank you.
So that's part of the reason why I asked to get moved up.
We'll see.
Is I'm a little under the weather today, so.
And we don't want you to share any longer than you have to.
I don't see a screen, so what do I need to do? All right. Well, that's all coming up. Like I said, I can go to VGA if you want. Oh, look at that. Wow. So that is not the property that we're looking to purchase.
Which small Central Asian country did you put up?
That's the Grand Canyon. That is the Colorado River right down in there. So, all right. Okay. So let me now get. All right. I lost my mouse to your screen. Back to mine, please. There it is. All right. Okay. So that's right. All right, now I need to know that. Here we go. Yep, got it. Okay. So hopefully you all can see that. So tonight we're here for what I consider a joyous moment. This is something that we've been trying to do for many years. The commission, through various iterations and chairmans, has been trying to pull together the purchase of these 4 parcels. These activities date back before Greater Woods was what we knew as Greater Woods, when it was just one tax-deeded property and then the Bucher site. So it goes way back. Various chairmen and members have tried. We made inroads. We got close. We got discussions, and then got turned away. And in fact,
Our last turnaround was last year, but that mostly, I believe, was due to the fact that Mr. Nash had passed, and we thought it was best just to leave things alone for a while and let the family, deal with all that went on there. So, earlier this, or late winter, early spring, Mike had nice conversations with a member of the Nash family, and all of a sudden the door opened. And here we are 10 months later in front of you. So just want to give you a little of that history going back. So let me move on. So what I want to do is cover a few of the legal things to explain why we're here. I did this in the previous couple of presentations, but essentially we, the Commission, are able to operate under RSA 36-A. Colon 4 stipulates the powers of conservation commissions, and it states that we're able to purchase property and fee, real property, only with the approval of the town council. So that's why we're here tonight. We're seeking your approval for this land purchase. Part of the other legality of all this is before we're authorized to expend funds that are authorized through this RSA, we need to have a public hearing, which we did this past Monday, where I presented a very similar presentation. We had a discussion. We had members of the public present, but no one spoke during the public hearing. So that's the public hearing notice, and in our records we actually have a hard copy from a newspaper as well. The notice has to follow RSA 675, which we did to the letter. So, all right, so that takes care of all the legalese. So really what are we doing here today? And it's about 4 parcels, and those are the tax map numbers, and I'll have a slide here shortly that actually puts those parcels on a map so you can see where they're at. We originally thought all 4 parcels were owned by the... Yeah? Is it not working behind you?
No, and I can't, without turning
Oh.
around,
Okay.
All right. No, I know it, but when he's flipping pages, I just want to make sure I'm in the same place. And it wasn't a big deal. I just whispered to Tom, made it news.
Okay.
I just don't turn around.
I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, don't want to leave you in the dark. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. I won't turn my head then. So, okay. All right. So we're talking about tax map parcels 5A3, 5A65, 5A65-1, and 5B1. Like I said, I'll show those on a map shortly. For a long time, we thought 4 parcels, all 4 of them were owned by the Conservancy Foundation. It turns out 3 of them were, but one of them was actually owned by Second Generation LLC and or members of the Nash family and trusts, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. So, in case you're curious, Second Generation LLC are members of the Nash family. It's just the generation after it's just 2 more generations down. So, so this is really all part of the Nash family here. So. All right, so details of the sale. Again, I'll show you the parcels that come up. We're looking at 4 combined parcels. It turns out there are 152.43 acres for $431,600, which equates to about $2,800 an acre. The MCC will utilize our conservation fund number 53 to cover recording fees, attorney fees, and the purchase price and all related costs. Stipulated by the sellers that all 4 parcels have to be included in the sale, and the properties are sold as is for conservation purposes only. They all, in their deeds, currently have language that says conservation purposes, so we're not changing that aspect of the properties. The sale we made in the purchase and sales contingent upon a public hearing and approval by you, the town council, which were mandated by RSA. Just another note. Originally, when we started looking at this, I asked Eileen to speak to Lauren to give us an idea of the value of the parcels altogether. This is kind of an unusual situation, but she used her closest comp, if you want to call it that, and generated a total value that equated to $777,500, and we're purchasing them for $431,600. So that way, we believe there's a bit of value there. When I researched some of the other previous sales going back a number of years, the last one parcel that was purchased for Greater Woods it was 5A2, I believe, and that, no, I'm sorry, no, 5A4. No, it was 5A2, and that value worked out to about $3,600 an acre. In 2003, 15 acres, parcel 5A1, which is in the general vicinity, was about $9,000 an acre, and that's a parcel that's actually being proposed for development. It's already been to the planning board, or about to be. So, and then 5A4, another similar sale in 2013 for 1.4 acres in the general area for $33,000 or $16,000 plus per acre. So, I think in general we negotiated a fair price for the parcels. While we're talking money, the money is going to come out of Fund 53. The intent, that fund right now has $1.192 million in it, and this purchase of $431,000 would take that fund down to about $760,000.
I'm having a hell of a time hearing you, Tim. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can do the help.
All right. Does that help? Is that better?
Does help.
All right. Okay. All right. So you want me to start over or continue?
Continue.
Okay.
Please.
All right. So what I was talking about was the different values of the funds and where the money's all going to come from. So, all right. So let me talk a little bit more about things. One item of what took us a while to reach agreement on is the title. The 3 conservation parcels were very easy titles, very clean. Carrie Ann Roman, our attorney, worked on that and stuff. The other parcel we had some concerns about because when that parcel was turned over from both Tamposi and Nash to other owners to Second Generation LLC, it turns out that the description wasn't done properly, and therefore the title wasn't as clean as it should have been. And according to Carrie, she felt that it wasn't an appropriate transfer title-wise. So we looked at ways to remedy that in order to get the cleanest title possible. And after lots of negotiation with their attorney and through Carrie and through other advice from our firm, other members over in Portsmouth, they came up with what they are comfortable with, a solution. And essentially, because that deed, that transfer wasn't clean, when Mr. Nash passed on, it wasn't clean, and therefore it fell to his estate. And he also had a trust, and basically his trust stated that all his property was, all his estate property was part of the trust. So what we decided, and what you'd see if you looked at the purchase and sales agreement, is a long list of signatures. What we did is we've covered every heir and every member of the trust, trustees of the trust, as well as Second Generation LLC, all buying off on this sale, and they will also sign the deed to make the transfer. So we essentially get a quality quit claim deed as opposed to a warranty deed. The only place, and I want to be very upfront with you about this, where this could be an issue is if down the road we wanted to again if we wanted to sell the parcel, we could not provide a warranty deed. We could only provide a quit claim deed. The only option that was the attorneys felt to get through all this was to reopen through probate Mr. Nash's estate, which was not something that the family really wanted to go through. It would be costly and would take time, and that would just create all kinds of emotional as well as other issues. So our attorney is comfortable with the solution. Their attorney is comfortable with the solution. Anyone who can lay any claim to this parcel is signed off on the purchase and sales and will sign off on the deed. So I think we're in a good spot here, especially since our intent is not to sell this property. So where is the parcel? So basically what I've done is I've created a map here that shows all the conservation parcels that make up Greater Woods in the light green. Hopefully it's light green over my shoulder. What you won't see is the school parcel right here, which we have an easement over a good portion of it, which becomes part of Greater Woods. The 4 parcels are these 2 here. It kind of fills in a hole that we had. Then there's this parcel here and this parcel here. So 4 parcels, 152 acres. going to try and break out of this mode and show you another picture if I can. Hopefully my computer will allow me to do it. And that is this one. So this map here is the same map that you saw earlier, except I did highlight the school parcel. But I want to show you the bigger picture, the down-the-road picture. And that is in this red areas. This is the Chestnut Hill subdivision that's been going through the planning process for quite a long time. As part of that, they've agreed to provide an easement to the Conservation Commission in the town over these parcels, which is their open space. So what's going to happen shortly, assuming that you approve the purchase of these parcels, is we're actually going to pick up another 100 acres. So Greater Woods is going to grow from 493 acres to approximately 650 acres. So I think that's about the right math. So what you'll also notice is that there's a hole in the middle, and we're working on it. So. All right, so let me see if I can get back to where we, come on, picture. All right, well, it's close. All right, so let me kind of wrap up with this slide and then one more. Really, why is this important? Greater Woods is part of a critical conservation focus area that was identified in 2010 by the Biodiversity Conservation Plan that was done for the town and the commission. We presented that plan. We had open hearings on it. I believe some of you may have seen or been part of that process. Part of that information was passed along and rolled into the town master plan. The town master plan has identified that this to be an area of concern and for conservation purposes. So I think we're fitting what we need to be doing. And then another large piece of this whole puzzle is the fact that this area, this lower map that I've got here is, let's see if I can get, there's my mouse. Greater Woods is right in the middle of this pink spot. And this pink spot is the highest ranked habitat in New Hampshire for sensitivity, for wildlife, for habitat, preservation and stuff like that. So we're doing the right thing for the environment here as well, and for what we need to be doing to protect habitat here in New Hampshire that's especially dwindling in the southern part of New Hampshire. So what I'm going to do is wrap this up then. So what we're doing here is we're here seeking your approval of the purchase. We're also asking, with your approval, that you allow our town manager to sign all necessary documents that need to be executed in order to make this happen. We're hoping to close before November 10th, which is the date stipulated in the purchase and sales agreement. And any other questions?
Yeah, I want to understand the stipulation of all 4 parcels. Why is that kind of a restriction put on this?
Basically, during negotiations, when it came up with this one parcel, had problems with the cleanness of the deed. It was point blank stipulated that it's all 4 parcels or not. One of these parcels, the one that is that has the problems with had the problems with the deeds, with the deed, it wasn't clean. It's kind of like isolated, it's landlocked for them, and so they wanted all 4 parcels or no deal.
Yeah. Essentially, they would have owned, if we'd only done the 3, they would have owned a parcel that was completely landlocked to them. No road access, no land access. They'd have to negotiate easements if they ever wanted it. So they wanted to make sure that we took all of them.
Yeah.
So the parcels are owned by 2 different organizations, as presented here. You're going to tell me that's different because you've been negotiating with one group.
Right. So it turns out those organizations are all family members, one being an LLC, the other being the Nash Trust, and all those folks have signed off on the purchase and sales agreement.
So one's being a conservancy organization or something?
Oh, right, yes. So the 3 are the Conservancy Foundation.
Is that like an LLC that's got a different name? Or
it is, yeah. Originally it was LLC. It turns out they incorporated it because they were an LLC for a while. So
an LLC is an incorporation. So
it's a different flavor of corporation. Yeah.
Pardon?
I guess it's a different flavor of corporation. Yeah.
An LLC is limited liability.
Right.
What is the Conservancy Fund?
The
Foundation Incorporated. So it's a C Corp.
It's a
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And which of the properties is the one with the title issues?
You want me to bring it up on the map?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
all I
happy
saw
to.
were 4 green things. And I
Right,
don't know which is
sorry.
who.
So, let me get my mouse to cooperate. There it is. I believe it's this one, isn't it? It's
one
one
of
of
those
these
two.
two. I'd have to. I can turn on the GIS system. We can take a quick look at it. So,
Well, I mean, that's close enough. One
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
two is certainly going
correct.
to narrow it down. I was concerned if it was the one down here butting
Right.
up to all the individual properties. and all that.
Gotcha.
Which is also the one that landlocks that huge piece above there. And
Mhm.
you said you're working on it. I don't know what that means, but obviously there's the one development going on, Chestnut
Right.
Hill or
Yep.
something like that, which
Right.
is open to feed into the next development potentially.
Correct.
If that land were
Right.
developable. But
Yeah,
we're-
we've had discussions with the person who owns the first right of refusal on that big parcel. He's made it clear that he's at this time not thinking about actually developing any of it, but he may develop a piece right at the end of that cul-de-sac, looking for anywhere from 10 to 30 acres of the 130 acres, I believe it is altogether, and that he would entertain either donating or at a very reasonable cost selling the rest of it. And I explained to him that there's tax advantages to him giving it us at a very reasonable cost. So,
Okay.
so that's what I mean by working on it. So,
Right. No, I understand. And I don't
Yeah.
want any more detail than
Yeah.
that. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. You were talking about the cost factor, and you were comparing some other numbers that I
Yeah.
didn't hear very clearly.
Okay.
But were those commercial use numbers compared against conservation numbers, or what?
So one of the number that was closest to ours was for a piece of Greater Woods.
Okay.
Okay, so
Similar conservation
it was intended, when it deeded to us, it had all the conservation restrictions all put on it at the same time. And that was purchased for approximately $3,600 an acre, and we're picking this up for about $2,800 an acre.
Oh, okay. I wanted to make sure I had my comma in the right place. It wasn't
Yeah.
28,000 an
No.
acre or something ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the extra information.
Yep.
Thank you, Tim, Mike. The conservation, the Conservancy Foundation is a second generation or Nash Family Trust or group. All 4 parcels are owned by similar people within the family. Is that?
Absolutely.
So is the, I don't know if I need the question asked or an answer for it, but could that property, is it able to come out of conservation, the conservancy property, the conservancy properties, is it ever able to come out to be used for other purpose, or how did that foundation, I don't know if there's.
So their deed state for conservation purposes only. To take that out of the deed, there'd be a legal process to do that. I'm not familiar with how to get there.
Are you asking about the current deeding of the property, or what we would be deeding the property as?
So once we
No,
take
the current deed.
The current deeding, I mean, as it states, if we don't buy this, can they
Yeah.
take that land out of conservation use and make it commercial, or is it restricted?
I'm not an attorney, so
I know.
conversations with Matt Upton a couple of years ago stated that it would be an extensive legal activity for them to remove the conservation aspects that are placed on those in the deed, because they're already part of the deed and signed. So he said nothing's impossible.
Sure,
Right.
that's the library.
We've seen that in town,
Yeah.
in multiple places.
And I guess the reason I ask is because I always hesitate to buy swampland for conservation purposes, like White Pines. I thought that peculiar, because it is what it is, and that's why I was curious about this. And now this evening, understanding that it's interrelated. I guess all 4 parcels puts a little different thing in my mind. So thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
That parcel that is shaped like the state of New Hampshire,
Or backwards.
and the one adjacent to it, which we don't have yet, are very hilly.
Oh, absolutely.
They have probably some of the highest points in the town there.
Yeah, the one, like he said, stated in New Hampshire, also has a target shooting range that we hope to shut down once we own it. So it's whenever you hear complaints of gunfire at Greater Woods, it's coming from there.
Dan?
I think you said about, if you could repeat it for me, all 4 parcels equal about 150 acres?
152 acres, yeah.
And what's your rough balance of your account right now?
$1.192 million.
And so my only question or caution is this, does this break the bank for you in a way? Does this leave you maybe short for the next decade? I mean, are you concerned at all that spending almost $500,000 leaves you a little light in the years to come?
Actually, I'm not, because looking at the available large parcels that are left that we would use that money for, they're few. We're also in some discussions with other folks on how we could leverage other people's money as well. And also, to be honest with you, the current structure of the land use change dollars allows us to replenish that fund up to $1 million with a 50-50 split with the town. So there is a replenishment option as lands do come out of current use. So, and you folks own those rules, so if you want to change the rules, you're welcome to do that as well. So,
Well, the town can.
yeah, no, you can. You guys made the last change, and you can make the change now.
We can.
It's not a town vote required.
Oh, I apologize.
Yep.
I thought I recalled it happened in a town meeting, that's why.
Well, it has in the
We've
past.
established it, yes.
Yeah, it has in the past. Back in
Right, but the
back in-
percentage changes is what I'm
Correct.
talking about. That can happen right here at the council.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
right,
a
yeah.
legislative, it's a legislative function.
But of course, having these funds lets the Conservation Commission do something like this. protect
Very true,
property.
and I've always been concerned, though, it was a battle I used to wage, I no longer do, because the town has spoken loudly how they do appreciate these properties and so on. But I've always been concerned about amassing piles of cash for the potentiality of what we might be purchasing. I always was looking for, and I can see here in your map, how you're thinking as a group with this big piece that you're, talking about at some point, or maybe,
Yeah.
and all, but, but to amass the money that the 1.3 or 4, I think, was a peak that we had.
Yeah, close to 1.4, I
Yeah, a
believe.
substantial amount of money, that we don't do that anywhere else in town. And I always thought that keeping a chunk of change so that you could purchase an option or something, bringing it to town meeting or however that would go, I thought more appropriate, but this is working, fine.
Yeah. So back to your comment, though, I do believe that we need to keep a few $100,000 around for maintenance. I mean, you don't buy
Right.
a house and not mow the lawn. So
So that was my concern, but to be honest with you, Tim, you and the rest of your group have just been, really very diligent and hardworking on that. So I'm not going to second guess your comfort zone. So I'll have complete faith in you and the group. If you feel like that's a number that you guys are comfortable with the next how many years, and I don't have a problem with it myself.
Other questions from council? Jody?
Not necessarily a question, but I just wanted to weigh in with my support for this purchase. Everyone knows I'm the town council liaison to the Conservation Commission, and when I tell you how much work the members of this commission put in on a weekly, if not daily basis, they're an incredibly hardworking committee, and we're very, very fortunate to have these people willing to volunteer on behalf of the town. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. This purchase has been an incredibly long time coming for people who have followed the history of this property. It's gone on for years, the intent, the wanting to purchase it, and kudos. I mean, the entire commission is responsible for this, but kudos to Mike Boisvert, because I think he's really the catalyst that made this happen, with a lot of support from everyone else on the commission as well. So, and we have openings. Tim, how many openings do we have on the commission?
1 full-time and 3 alternates.
Okay, thank you. So I'm really hopeful that the town council will make a motion and support the purchase of this land, because I just think it's a great, great thing for the town of Merrimack. Thank you.
Speaking of which, where are we legal-wise in adopting this evening?
You can make a motion to authorize the purchase, and it's going to be over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, to iron everything out. So, but you can make a motion to approve it, and you should be all set, if so the council chooses. It's a fixed dollar. It's
Well, I was
per-
just concerned about a public hearing requirement.
No, because they already did the public hearing.
Okay.
Conservation Commission already did the public hearing.
All right.
And that, according to our attorney, satisfies the public hearing aspect of it.
What was the purchase price again, please?
$431,600.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the town council authorize Merrimack Conservation Commission and approve, let me redact and rephrase. Mr. Chairman, I move that the town council approve the purchase of 4 parcels of land in the town of Merrimack known as tax map 5A/003, 5A/065, 5A/065-1, and 5B/001 located off of South Greater Road pursuant to RSA 36-8:4 and the purchase price amount of $431,600, and that furthermore that the town manager and/or her proxy be authorized to sign any and all documents necessary to perfect the transaction on behalf of the Merrimack Conservation Commission, period.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Tom?
Just because you read that motion, I just want to clarify that the purchase price is $431,600.
That's correct.
I thought I heard you say $600,000, so
I
I'm
thought I
just
said
concerned
430.
about the way it was, wanted to make sure we had it stipulated. And your motion is for a purchase at that price plus ancillary costs, or do we need to worry about the attorney fees and
No,
other
you do
fees?
not. Only for the purchase of property.
What's only for the purchase of property?
You authorize them to buy the property.
We don't have to authorize them for the other fees because they have, that's within their authority.
We've done that.
To take care of that.
Yeah.
We just, as a body, have to authorize the purchase of the
Yeah,
land.
I'm just reading bullet number 2 on details of the sale, where he says that they're going to use that fund to cover the recording, the attorney fees, the purchase price, and related costs. And if we don't put that in our motion, it seems like they're pulling money out of that fund without an authorization to do so.
Well,
We're authorizing.
so not to play legalese, but we're asking for your approval for us to make the purchase. The authorization of funds comes through us. We're authorized to expend the money in those funds, and we're the only
So we
body that...
didn't need the number in there.
You didn't need the number. I was going to go to that point, but in reality, I felt it was, you guys were on a roll, so I wasn't going to stop it.
Although, if the number were too great, we might not have agreed with it, so I don't know if putting the number in there makes it a
Yeah.
point or something, I'm not sure.
Right. Gets us in the ballpark, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
I see the agreement, I'm good with it.
Are we all set? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 600. Thank you.
Great. Thank you
Good
very
work.
much.
Good work.
So, most of my commission's behind me, so... yeah.
Mike, that wasn't so
Yeah.
He's a chairman in the making.
There you go. I think I had 3 left.
All right, next one is the Merrimack Public Library update. This is an annual thing we've been doing for many of our departments, and the library in particular, tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having us on your agenda tonight. I'm Jennifer Jobin, the chair of the Library Board of Trustees. With me is Yvette Kauser. She's the library director. I'll point out a couple of our trustees. We have Karen Freed and Janet Krupp, who are here tonight as well. Our 2 other members, Rick Barnes and Laura Philp, are at the library, actually at a Friends of the Library meeting tonight. So, yes, we're here to give you our annual update. I'll just jump right in. We held our retreat meeting following our April elections, where we discussed goal setting for the year. We decided this year was to be a continuation of our previous year, focusing on finishing up some housekeeping items that had kind of been let go for a while. So some of those tasks include reviewing and updating all library policies, reviewing and revising the staff manual, making sure that all staff reviews are done, job descriptions revised. One goal was to be able to add alternates to our board and perhaps there might be a counselor who can give us a little advice on this one. Our bylaws allow for alternates. However, looking at the town charter, that does not address alternates. So we're not quite sure what our next step is in that case. If there's anybody who's familiar with the town
You need
charter.
to request a change in the charter.
Okay.
It's a minor change. We've done it before. These kinds of things crop up on a regular basis. We've done 5 or 6 of them already.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, yes. Somebody else,
Does that affect
we
this-
applied for, we had alternates that we added to. I forget who it was.
Well, isn't the library governed by state law, and isn't there specific requirements within the state law?
There is an RSA that, that does allow for alternates. We didn't want to kind of jump over and kind of supersede the town charter if we didn't have to, but we're not sure. We don't have
You can-
legal advice on it. so.
It's easy enough to put together a proposal. It's got to be done now because of the lead time that's necessary for the drafting of the language and the publication and the hearing process and everything else that goes with it to get it on the ballot in April,
Okay.
if that's your intent. Eileen?
Jennifer, do you have alternates at all?
We have none.
And it's
Right.
not allowed by the charter? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It's
And how
not
many would
addressed
you
in the
like?
charter.
How many would you like?
Our bylaws currently say we can have one.
Okay, how many would you like?
Well, if they update the bylaws, I mean, right now it's a board of 5. If we have one, then that's an even voting, so I would assume we'd want to have an odd number total possible. I don't know.
Yeah, but usually alternates usually just sit instead of a regular member who is not in attendance. Okay, so that you can have a quorum and you can conduct your business with as full a board as you can get. So there's usually, it's not about, alternates normally do not have voting rights during that, in these kinds of situations. It's like the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, ZBA, and a couple of others where they're designated by the chair to sit in for an absent member. Now, they normally attend all the meetings, and, usually your bylaws will allow them to participate in everything so that they can stay current, all right? But for the most part, it's not an additive issue for alternate.
Now, the town RSA, the state RSA says no more than 3.
So how many would you like? You want 3?
Maybe we just say 3, and that covers it for future.
Okay. Up to 3, maybe.
No.
Just 3.
Put a definitive number in. Bill?
Library trustees are elected by the public.
Yes, I know.
So this means alternates will be elected by the public?
I don't know what the statute says.
I can tell you the statute. The Library Board of Trustees may recommend to the appointing authority the names of no more than 3 persons who may serve as alternate members.
So your board is the appointing authority?
I'm guessing the town council is the appointing authority.
that's-
We can
that's
recommend
where
Well,
we
it.
are with this. Who's the
let's
appointing
take a look at
authority?
the entire statute to see what the statute says and the context of the statute. So no, she's just got the section, she's got the segment from the piece. So there might be, if we're lucky, there's a definition for appointing authority.
Right.
My guess is there isn't.
Yeah, in this,
That's been us in the past.
Yes.
right.
Because
I'll tell you
when there's a
why.
vacancy, on the library trustees, the statute says we make, they come to us, in the past, you've come to us to make a recommendation to us to appoint someone to fill a vacancy. We've done that at least twice.
Yep.
Yeah, we're bringing this to you, and we started to research this because unfortunately we've had a couple of deaths of trustees in recent year, and people opting out of the board,
Right.
ending their tenure early. So it's kind of frustrating when you don't have something to go
Yeah.
back on and have an alternate
Right,
in place so we can just continue to do business. That's why.
until the next election or whatever,
Right.
you know, when they fill the unexpired term.
You can tease me, that's fine. But I'm going to give you an answer of why.
Okay, so
There's a
that-
reason.
So
Okay.
we've made our way through that particular issue,
Okay, so we'll check
and
on the bylaw.
we'll
Okay.
double check the appointing authority just to make sure we're on safe ground and get that over to us as soon as you can.
Terrific.
Because we're going to have to run it by council to make sure we get the right language in there.
Okay, great. And then finally on the list, I have updating bylaws, which kind of we can't do until we get this part addressed and make sure that that's updated. As usual, we continue to weigh expenses of continued repairs versus the possibility of a new library somewhere down the line in the future. So right now, our goal is to continue to be good stewards of this building and to maintain a safe and comfortable atmosphere for our patrons and staff. So some of those current building projects include the north window, the large window that faces north, is scheduled to be replaced next Tuesday. We're currently getting quotes for security cameras and a security lock system. We will be having the skylights tested for leaks. Well, we call them skylights. They're actually windows that are up on the top and those dog houses that stick out. We did have the roof redone. They did a water test and that was sealed. Seemed fine. A couple weeks ago we had driving rain and water was coming in, so they believe that's coming in through the windows up there. So we're going to be having a water test done to try to determine where that water was coming in from. And we're doing a slate roof patch repair on the original portion of the building. We had water coming in last winter. Ice dams were backing up and we're having water coming in and some issues with some of those slate tiles. So for now, we're looking at repairing. We do have on the CIP somewhere in the future looking at a full replacement, which is extremely expensive. So right now, we're just looking at patch repairs. So I'll turn it over to Yvette. She can share with you some of the things that are going on inside the building.
So, yes, ma'am.
Good.
Have you ever looked into the Moose Plate money?
No.
We've discussed it.
Yeah.
We haven't fully looked into it.
Yeah, because they offer quite a bit of money to update libraries, particularly the older parts, like slate roofs and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have quite a bit of money. You ought to look into it.
Okay. I'll put that on my list in my free time.
Those are the moose. The moose money is the Heritage and Heritage Conservation license plates that people pay the extra fee for.
Right. No, I know.
I know we've talked about it. We've looked at it. I believe they're small amounts, $1,000 maybe. Do you think it's bigger than that? But yeah, we'll look into that again.
Okay. Thank you. So to talk about some of the changes we've made inside the building, Jennifer was saying that our goal in our current building is to be a good steward or good stewards of the building. When I came on board in 2009, I was made aware that there was a study done by the Building and Marketing Committee previous to 2009 where the challenge was put to the staff to weed 10% of the collection. We've done that now. The result of that has been the Lowell room becoming a reading room and a second meeting room. We've also freed up space to do these two recent changes that we've done. We've freed up a lot of seating area for patrons in the children's room. So what we just did in June, with help of our trustees, thank you, who came and did some heavy lifting. Not too heavy, it wasn't too heavy. Not too heavy. But there was no danger involved. We created a dedicated teen area. You'll remember that the teen area was located at the north window. It was kind of crammed in there, and the shelving, when you think about libraries, as a librarian, when you think, we're trying to anticipate how patrons are using this space, and we watch how patrons use the space, and you think a lot about flow. So where does this collection start with A? and where's the logical conclusion to get to the next bunch of letters in a collection in terms of shelving it. The teen collection wrapped around in a really weird way. And, you know, for a patron searching, you get frustrated. If you can't find what you want, or if it doesn't really make any sense in terms of the logical flow of where the next bookcase is going to be, if you have to, in the children's room, for example, you would start on one side to go to fiction, and then you'd have to actually skip over 2 bookcases, which were series. You'd have to skip over a staff desk, and then you get to D. So that has been resolved in the children's room. We did the same thing with teen, where we took everything off the shelves and we put it where the magazines were located in the Henderson room. So now they have their own dedicated space. It's right outside of my office. So if there's an activity going on or there's a lot of kids in there, then I might, you know, prop my door open just to kind of give a listen. I know I trust these kids. They're wonderful, and they will take care of this building with us, but, you know, just to have a little adult supervision is fine. Back by the windows, there was really no way to really see what was going on. And but we do have more traffic coming into the library in terms of our teen population. Our youth services librarian took this closet that really wasn't being utilized. It was being used to store overflow carts, and she made it a manga closet and painted it bright green. She didn't paint it. We had someone paint it. But now it's this like attraction. It's a destination in the library to come visit the manga closet, and the kids are taking out armloads of books. It's very exciting, and she received a grant from DCU, and we ordered some teen furniture to kind of update and continue this momentum with reinventing this teen space. So it's really kind of exciting. It's a beautiful location now, and you're welcome to come by and see it. The magazines were relocated to the north window. So now, in terms of shelving, we have weeded that collection also. That was part of our goal. And it's just so nice to have a seating area by the window instead of, it was actually blocked when I came on board. The entire window was covered with bookcases and a magazine, 6 or 7 foot tall magazine case, but now the whole window is there. So it's really, we've just kind of created 2 really nice patron areas that didn't exist before. The next thing we're going to do, the goal is December, January, when some of our events and programming lighten up a little bit, and we have a little more free time for staff to help us with this, is to rearrange the main floor from circulation to the magazine area. So it includes the reference desk, the circ desk, all of the patron computers. The problems that we've started to see that I was seeing was, for example, when a patron is at the reference desk and you're having a patron interview with them, what are you looking for? And I'm on the computer and following up on their research question, patrons talk very loud. And if I try to lower my voice and encourage them to lower their voice so that they can have some privacy with their search question, because sometimes it could be a private thing, the topic, they just kind of get louder and louder. You'll remember in the library right now, the patron computers are circling the reference desk. So anyone who's on a patron computer doing their work can overhear this conversation that our staff is having with their patrons about this research question. Sometimes it's about divorce papers. Sometimes it's, about legal papers that we can point them to, or health information that we can point them to. It's not always, I want to read this book, but even that information should be confidential. So to rearrange this and kind of pull the computers away from the staff area, make a bank of computers. And then also the second problem that we saw was patrons were coming in, going to the circulation desk, asking a question and getting diverted to the reference desk, so the reference staff could fully answer that question and spend more time with them, but patrons didn't want to bother a second person. So they never got to the desk, they never got their questions answered. We're doing a little more staff training so that the circulation staff can answer certain kinds of questions and resolve that first question instead of sending them to the second location. But then also we're working on moving those 2 desks closer together so they don't not decide to go that second step. This will also free up some space at the circ area where the tile is so that we can create even more patron seating. We now allow covered drinks in the library, but I will be talking to my board soon to see if they want to allow certain kinds of food in the library so that we can really just make the experience more enjoyable. We'll be creating a self-holds shelf. What that means in regular speak is when I request a book or you request a book from another library, we put a hold on it, we put it on the shelf behind the circulation desk, and you have to ask the staff to retrieve it for you. What other libraries in our consortium do is they have a self-hold shelf. So I can come in and I can grab my book off of this shelf and check it out myself and just be on my way to my next thing. So that's something we really want to be offering the same kind of services that our other contemporary libraries in our consortium are providing, because people in our surrounding towns go to they go to the neighborhood libraries, and they'll go to Bedford and see one level of service, and then they'll come to Merrimack and see a different level of service, and I don't like that. It really should all be at the same level. We should raise our level. So I will say I'm incredibly proud of our staff right now. They are following along with kind of these initiatives that we're doing. They're really doing a wonderful job. I would especially commend our professional staff. Really, I'm incredibly proud of them. So that's kind of what's going on in the building. I invite you to come see these physical changes and over the next couple of months as we move the interior parts to come see it. A couple of other things, I'll update you on some library committees. We had our new website went up. It went live on Columbus Day, or Indigenous Persons Day, if you go that way. Little piece of information for you there. Okay. But our website went live. It was paid for by the Merrimack Public Library Development Fund Committee. And we had a web developer who was a librarian, also a web programmer down in Rhode Island, and he came up to New Hampshire for a meeting to do some training with the staff. So several of us have had a little bit of training on Drupal on how to update the site. The old site, besides being really difficult to search and not visually pleasing, very outdated, it could only be updated on one staff person's desk using FTP, which is incredibly outdated. So it really, in terms of staff development and just being a little more efficient, now we're able to update the site from anywhere, including outside of the building. So I think it looks beautiful, and it just has a lot more functionality. It also looks like the other websites that our consortium libraries have also gone to improve. So again, we're trying to raise the level of service that we're doing and just be as modern as they are. And thank you to the Development Fund for funding that. That is not town money. That's all privately funded money. And then there's actually an opening on the Development Fund Committee if anyone is interested in joining us in the library. As I understand from the members of the committee, they say it's not a lot of heavy lifting. They are looking for people who have some experience in investing funds and fundraising. We also recently worked with the town Parks and Rec Department and Public Works and our Friends group to purchase a little free library that was installed at Wasserman Park by the playground. This is, I don't know if you know about little free libraries, but there's kind of a movement going on. I don't know if it's international, but it's throughout the United States, where individuals can purchase a little structure that is something like a birdhouse and fill it with books. And these are free books to take. You take one and you leave one. So it becomes this sustainable little library that it promotes reading, and it's just really an exciting thing. So our Friends of the Library purchased that structure, and Public Works built the stand, and Matt Kasparius, he had known about these in his previous job, so he was 100% behind us, and it's just very exciting. So that was neat. And then the next thing that's just coming up, and then I'll pass back to Jen, is we have our annual Turkey Shoot fundraiser happening the Thursday before Thanksgiving, and you're welcome to join us. We are going to be raising funds to purchase a 3D printer that is made here in Merrimack by Turnkey Industries. This is a new company. They came to the library a couple of weeks ago just to do a presentation on 3D printing, and I attended, and I was so impressed with these young men and the company and their story, and how they said they had purchased their own 3D printers just because they are in that business, and had a lot of struggles with customer service. And so their goal, when they finally finalized their prototype, was to provide excellent customer service to their customers. And that's what we're about here in Merrimack. So we're going to hopefully raise enough funds to purchase that, and they will be at the turkey shoot at the high school doing demonstrations for us. So it's pretty exciting.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Like Yvette said, we welcome you to come to the library at any time to see all the stuff that's going on. If you have questions about any of the building things, issues that we're dealing with, or changes we're making, certainly reach out to Yvette, and she'd be happy to give you a tour, or drop in any time. And finally, we'd like to invite you and any members of the public to join our email list. We do send out, Yvette sends out updates on what's going on in the library, and our board actually tries to write an update after every meeting, so you can keep apprised of what we're doing in our meetings. You can certainly sign up on the library website, or you can just ask when you're in the library to be added to that list. So, do you have any questions for us?
What a change.
I hope it's a good change.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And this is a steady thing that's been going on for the last couple of years, and it's really great to see this kind of progress and the innovations that you're adopting.
Thank you.
The 3D printer will blow people away.
I know,
it's just
really cool.
Just got to watch out what they're doing with it, though.
I don't know what you're implying.
We will have a policy.
It would pique the interest, perhaps, of the some public safety people about what some things that can be done with that. But anyway.
I thought you were talking about the behavior of teenagers or something.
No.
I'm probably imagining different things being printed than you are. I apologize for that.
Well, that might happen. That might happen too. But anyway, yeah. Well, that's the double-edged sword of technology sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we will look at. I have been looking at other libraries' policies, because it's really a question of freedom of speech and what is, I mean, we're talking about censorship. We don't have censorship in a library, so when you're touching someone's artistic creation, I don't know, that's going to be a tough one. So thank you for opening that can of worms for me.
Well,
I will look into it.
And you didn't even say anything.
Yes. No, I just projected what was likely to be happening.
Yeah, no. That's,
She had an imagination that just shot off in a direction.
I'm sorry.
But see, that's called recognition. That's what my English professor used to call it, recognition. When you see something in there and you go, aha, I know, I've seen that, and that's all she's that's all she's doing, But you try to encourage people to be creative, and when they get too creative, sometimes wait a minute, because you're not used to it. But anyhow, as I said, it's great to see that activity going on. Now, Finley, and then
I was just curious, what a turkey shoot?
Yeah, we don't shoot turkeys. I always have to clarify.
So you're
There's
safe.
There's
They
no
don't
turkeys
shoot
being
turkeys,
shot.
so
Tons in my neighborhood, that's all I know. But
No, this is this is an event that a previous trustee brought to the library a couple years ago, and it's a night of raffles. I should have said turkey shoot night of raffles. It's what we do is we purchase or have funded 40 turkey dinners. So we have 40 turkey on the risers on the stage at the high school. There are 40 dinners. It's turkeys and vegetables and pie and candy and cider, and there's lots of pieces. I think there's 10 pieces in each thing. I don't know. And you come in and you come to spend money and have fun. And we have our volunteers with their blue aprons on, and they're selling these rows of tickets, and it's very exciting and very fast. And then we put them all in the bin and turn it and draw. And you can go home with 5 turkeys and no potatoes, or you might go home with a whole bunch of mix of stuff, and you can trade with people, and you know, it's really fun. We also have a raffle on lotto tickets. We do lotto tickets.
We have gift baskets that are donated
Yeah.
by local businesses or
Mhm.
individuals. So we have people reaching out now, and
Yeah.
Anyone's welcome to donate.
There's also games for the kids' games and activities that our youth services librarian puts together for them. I know last year, you know, the Friends of the Library will provide refreshments, so you can come and, you know, buy a sandwich or something. But I know there was a family last year that was sitting right in the front, and I was emceeing, and they had ordered a pizza, and the pizza was delivered. And it was just like, all right, then, have a party. That was okay. But it's very fun. Last year we had live music. We're looking to see what kind of live music we're going to have, and the music plays between while they're selling tickets, so it's fun.
One other last thing is
Yeah.
emails. I get emails from Jack Gerard and other people that I really didn't care about, and so I would say, I won't speak for my colleagues, but if you want to just use my email address, please, I'd love to get it. Your
Terrific.
newsletter would sell all your doings.
Okay. Me too. Okay.
I think I'm on the list already. Me too.
Oh.
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay. Bill?
Just a comment that my colleagues will probably appreciate, because it's probably one of the best kept secrets in town right now. So, my daughter enjoys the comic book club really well.
She's going.
She's going. And my daughter is very talented in the form of anime. Really, really good. So she enjoys being the only girl amongst a bunch of guys talking comic books. So Michelle had dropped Jade off at the library, and
Yeah.
she said, "Can you pick her up?" I go, "Absolutely." So
Yeah.
got there on time. That way I don't miss her. I walk into the library. I know she's downstairs. I'm like, she'll come up and find me. So I sit down, start reading the Union Leader. I read the Nashville Telegraph. And I'm on to the Boston Globe. And I look at the time. She was supposed to be up 50 minutes ago. So I went booking out the library, looking around the parking lot, because I have no idea where she is. And then I go downstairs. I come to find out she's sitting there, waiting for me to pick her up, because your policy is the parent has to go in to pick up the child. And I didn't know that, but I just want to say that's awesome. This is all new to me.
See?
This is all new to me.
Yeah.
Newbie parent question.
That will be
So,
the least of your worries.
So I just
as time goes on.
So I just want to thank you. I think that's a good policy. I really do. And the reference librarian who was there watching the two, my daughter and ironically a boy who's in her module at the middle school, were just sitting there talking, chilling. So so that was good. I was really impressed with that.
Good. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Question?
Good.
How would I go about keeping up with the news regarding as Tom said, everything that you're doing inside and with the programs, it's fantastic. It has changed dramatically since when my kids were little, so thank you to everybody for all of the new initiatives. But how would I keep track of, I'm interested in the physical repairs, the capital projects. Is there a convenient way that we could get information when you start having the tests done and you find out what the problem is, and keeping a tally of the repairs? I know we have capital improvement plans. Eileen, I don't know if this is more a question for you than for the library, but I'm interested in keeping track of the capital needs of that building, what they are and how much they cost. So I don't know the best way to do that as a town councilor.
Every year, we produce a capital improvements plan that outlines at least 5 to 6 years of what those projects may be. So every department head needs to think ahead about what the things that they need to have funded.
Okay, so I'm familiar with that, having sat through that before on the school side. But what about like surprises? Are these repairs that you're talking about right now, were those anticipated and on the capital improvement plan, or are those surprises?
Well, there were,
Yeah.
I'd say, smaller projects that aren't big enough to go on that plan. The window was something that's been causing problems for a while, so that's why we're doing that now. Let's see, the roof, the slate roof, we knew would have to be, repaired, replaced at some point, but last winter we had the water coming in, so we know now we've got to address it so then we're not ruining that part of the building. So, some of those things, some of these things, if you join the email list, we try to put those things, after our meetings, what we've discussed.
I understand that you can't, not every little surprise is going to be on the CIP, and the slate roof is something I would be looking for on a document such as that. But if that email list, those kinds of things go out, then that would suffice, because I'm interested in keeping track of those things.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think also, because when we have a problem in the library, I of course bring it to Jennifer because she's my chair. I bring her immediately. But then I bring it to the rest of the board and into the public because our meetings are televised. And so you can always refer to the minutes. But because the trustees are taking turns writing reports to go into emails after their meetings, then that's when you would get what we discussed at a meeting.
All right, thank you. If I have any questions, I'll be sure to reach out to you.
Yeah,
Thanks very
absolutely.
much.
Yeah, the other avenue is through their budget requests that they come in. But, usually if there's a surprise, that sometimes they convey that to us. Or
Yeah.
they talk to Paul to help them out
Right.
with the purchasing issues, so.
Right. We did include on the CIP that I just had submitted to Paul, the security cameras and the security pass cards, and that was something trying to think to plan ahead for a large expense like that, because we've had an increase in incidents in the building, and I don't need one is too many for me, but there have been more than one incident of different kinds, so just trying to plan for that kind of expense.
All right. Bill?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, I hate to say you guys, but you came to us, was it last year, the year before, and there was issues with the roof that kind of snuck up, and you came to us with with a presentation and some estimates, and I think we as a board were, you gave us good information for us as a board to be able to make a determination. I'm just asking a year ago to you guys, just to get to Jody's point that they've come to us before looking for an appropriation for an emergent need, as it was with the roof. And I think, after the conversation that we've had with them, and I don't know if it was last year or the year before.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, that's what I thought, 2 years ago.
Last December.
Right, and-
We came to you about the roof.
Exactly.
Had gone beyond what the original estimates were. We actually found that money in trustee money, so we didn't have to ask for more from the town.
Right.
Yeah, but it was amazing, the change in what you got for your buck when we got involved. Okay, or it said, hey, take a look at this, take a look at this, take a look at that. That was a 2-cigar deal between Yakubov and I, sitting there trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And going, this doesn't sound right. Sitting down in his warehouse, puffing on a cigar, and started looking at things, and then he came to you and helped you out with a couple of things and made some suggestions.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think when I've looked at when I started doing the CIP, to submit to Paul, the library, as I understand it, only ever submitted a CIP for a new building. And then when having conversations with Paul and really understanding the process better, it was like, oh, wait a minute, I can put a repair on this? Oh my gosh, I can put the parking lot on this? Oh my gosh, I can put, it's such a relief to be able to share these burdens with you, if that is maybe the right way to say it, and instead of suffering by myself in my office. I don't know.
wouldn't say it's a burden, but I would say it's strategic planning. It allows the council to understand the library needs better. We've got it documented.
Well, not only that, it allows the town to understand your needs better,
Absolutely.
too. I mean, there was always a reluctance. There has been in some quarters in the town to bring things forward because they cost money. And it might put them in a bad light. So, there's that reluctance works against you sometimes, because people don't understand what you're doing. And then when you come in with a big ticket item, there's always this throw their hands up in the air. What? How long have you known about this? Okay, type of reaction, and it just goes downhill from there. But anyway, good. All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you again.
Have a good weekend.
All right, no public hearings. Don't see any legislators in here to provide us with an update. Town manager's report.
Okay, the Department of Revenue Administration has finalized the tax rate. The new tax rate is $24.72. This represents a 63-cent increase from last year. The town's portion of the tax rate is $5.49, which is an increase of 3 cents from last year. Please anticipate that the tax bills will be mailed within the next week or two. The town will be accepting bids for the Bean Road and McGaw Road bridges. Estimated completion date is scheduled for November 2016 for both. The town of Merrimack is accepting applications for Public Works Director. As we know, Rick Seymour is retiring in a couple of weeks, and I got a big frowny face on my thing from Becky. More details about the position are available on the website. The next Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day will be held on Saturday, November 7th at the Nashua Public Works Garage at 9 Stadium Drive from 8 a.m. to noon. For a list of acceptable materials, please check out the Merrimack Solid Waste Division site on the town web. There is a fee of $10, which covers 10 gallons or 20 pounds of materials. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the town manager? Hearing none, consent agenda. Proposed changes to Chapter 183, Vehicle and Traffic. This is the third and final reading, and this is the proposed changes to add a section restricting traffic through traffic on Valley View Drive to emergency vehicles only between tax map parcel 5C142 and 5C148. And this is presented pursuant to Charter Article 5, Section 5-4.
Move the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0-0. No old business. New business. Committee appointments. We have an appointment here from Andy Yonkin to the Agriculture Commission. Nancy and I interviewed her, along with Bob McCabe. Thank you. A couple of weeks ago for this, as you see from the letter. She's expressed her interest. If you know where the Yonkin property is, you know that they have had a long association with agriculture and animals. As I said to her, I used to have to be careful coming around the bend because very often she would be out there with a friend or two riding their horses. And at that time, the road wasn't nearly as good as it is now. So anyway, the recommendation is to her to receive the full member appointment. What's the desire of the council?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Councilor Rothaus. He raised his hand. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 600. I'll explain it later. Anita, would you care to join us? Item on the agenda is the Heritage Commission programs and Merrimack Historical Society discussion. This is to update the town council to discuss matters concerning the Heritage Commission and the Merrimack Historical Society.
Is your green light on?
Okay, I thought it was on.
There we
Sorry,
go.
it was only dim. Okay, at our meetings, we've raised several questions, we've talked about things, and when I've asked questions, Finley says, maybe you ought to bring it before the town council. So here we are. Yes, I am the Heritage Commission and the Historical Society, and many of the things that we do overlap, which makes it easier to work with ourselves instead of having to talk to somebody else. The first thing is that we noticed in our bylaws for the Historical Society only about a month ago that there is a thing in there that says we have to have an annual audit. To my knowledge, we've never had one. How do we go about getting an audit done? Is there somebody from the town that does this? Can you recommend that we go to somebody? Apparently, we need to get one done.
Well, there's a...
Yes, I know it is. That's why I'm asking. I'll do it publicly and cut my own throat. I mean,
You're
this
shaking
is-
your head, Paul. What's going on?
They're too small. They're really too small to have an audit, because an audit's going to run minimum to walk in the door $10,000. I think that's
wow,
1/5 of what they have.
Okay.
Not even. You know,
Is-
if you're looking at what's on the books for in the town and in the Heritage Fund, I think they got $25,000 on the books, and that gets audited with the town portion. The Historical
So there's the
Society
audit.
is different, and
Yeah.
we just give them, you know, roughly $3,000,
somewhere between 3 and 5. And,
$5,000, and that's.
but we
they
do
an
have
audit,
funds
then
of
we'd
our
have
own
to
too. But
Triple that amount, and they don't.
That's
You know, they
kind of-
spend $10,000, maybe $12,000 a year in expenses. So,
is the best bet to take it out of our bylaws?
you know,
That's an
personally,
option. It's a bylaw.
Okay.
you know, maybe not an audit, but maybe having just somebody go in there and do a compilation on their things. And
An annual review by the finance director.
I don't have insurance for that, but I can do a review and look at their books if that's, you know, what you would want. I have a CPA on my staff too, and we can go in there and do it. We've
Okay.
done it before.
Right, and rarely money is taken out of that account. It's,
No.
I don't know how many a year, but
Yeah.
very
It's more
small
the
handful.
Historical Society than the Heritage, because Heritage
Yeah.
does get audited when we get our
Yeah.
financial audit for the town of Merrimack. That's part of the audit to look at those expenses too. It's more of the Historical Society, which is a
Yes,
separate organization
yes,
with a
it is.
separate tax ID number than the town. So, you know, if you want, I have like I said, I have a gentleman on staff who's a CPA. We can go in there one day and just do a quick review of everything and look at stuff. It shouldn't take us that long.
Okay.
Well, we should make sure that things are being done reasonably correctly.
Which sounds
And
like that would do.
Yeah, and there's an adequate oversight to make sure that, you know, reasonable practices are being followed.
Right, we can look at the internal controls, and we can look at, you know, some of the other stuff in minutes to their meetings to make sure that they're voting on expenditures and things of that sort. So we can do that. And
Okay.
I just cannot see saying they need an audit when they have, at most,
Yeah.
I think, $15,000 a year. We're gonna be doubling their
Hmm.
budget just to put an auditor in there for a day.
Thank you. Of course, the second thing was to set a time for a budget discussion with you. I know when I asked, you called me the very next day and said we can do that, and then I found that Jeannie didn't have everything ready. So we are ready at this point.
Next week, I'm available.
And everything has been done in the past by the treasurer. I've never been involved in the budget discussion, you know, and that, the treasurer did it all. And I'm saying, where does that come from? How do we do this? How do we know what the town's going to give us and what can we ask for? So that's why we wanted to talk to Paul. Okay, I will do that. I will talk with Jeannie tomorrow and see when she and I can get together to meet you. Thank you. Now, for about 15 years, the Historical Society has been looking for a better home. You know where we're located, way over in the corner in South Merrimack, where nobody goes by us and nobody sees it. Although surprisingly, we had 11 visitors last week that just happened to go by and see the open flag out there. Blew me away. Also took 2 days of my time that I didn't get anything else done, but great, because that's education, which is why we're there. We have talked for some time about trying to find a place on Route 3 that would be a historical place where we could acquire this, hopefully as a gift, and be able to support it. And our dream was sometime in the future, if we get a place like that, to be able to pick up and move our schoolhouse to that location. So it's all in one place, which could be possible based on the fact that the church has been trying very hard to get our land for a long time. And our deed says if it ceases to be the Historical Society, it goes back to the school board, which is where we got it from. So we are hoping that if we find another location and can start functioning in a new location, that we would be able, I'm just letting you know what's going on in our minds, to see if the church would still be interested in buying the land and having us pick up the schoolhouse, get enough money for the land to be able to move the schoolhouse. The schoolhouse is the only functional thing like that anywhere around here. We would never want to give up the schoolhouse. It's a very valuable building historically and everything else. And we have looked at how many times buildings in this town have moved. And this particular one is a very solid building that should be movable. And it wouldn't take all kinds of wires that have to come down because it's short. So just looking at what we're talking about. One of the possible locations we've talked about for about 10 years now is the old fish hatchery. Everybody know where that is? Okay, it's part of that Flatley corner up there. It's a separate lot from all the rest of the Flatley land. It is a separate lot right now. I got a map of it and everything else. About 5 years ago, I called Flatley to try to find out who to talk to. Oh, we'll get back to you. I emailed them. I wrote them letters. I have never had any response. So we asked Finley if he could give us an idea who to talk to at Flatley. And I know what they're getting ready to do up there. But that little corner doesn't have a plan for it yet. At least not that I've been able to find out. It's just a little corner. The house that is in that corner, which interestingly enough doesn't show on the map, because when you look at the Google thing, it's under trees, so it doesn't show up. It's interesting. That house right now, they have leased to St. Gobain, and they use it for their salesmen and stuff that are going to be here for a few days at a time. So it's leased to St. Gobain right now. There is also a storage shed there right along the brook that would make an excellent place for us to use for storage and to use for putting some of our larger items that we don't have room for anywhere else inside a building. So, I guess what I'm asking before it's too late is who we can talk to at Flatley to discuss this possibility. It would save them some tax property to make this little corner to us, I'm sure, which you'd like to get their tax money, I know.
Well,
Richard Kane?
no, not necessarily. I would talk to Tim Thompson.
Tim Thompson.
Who?
Tim Thompson, the Community Development
Okay.
Director. And he can show you the proposal that
Okay.
they've submitted for the development of that property.
Okay.
Okay, which is, let's see, that is, the hatchery is south of the San Gobain building, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's right out on the road.
yeah, you better go down
You
and
better
talk
go
to him.
quick.
Pardon?
Yeah.
You better go very
I
quickly.
know
Better
that.
go very quickly.
I know it would
because
have to be a quick thing, but I just didn't know who the heck to
Yeah, the
talk to.
proposal they have for that, I'm trying to recall it. We talked to them last week. Or was it this week?
This week,
This week,
2 days ago.
Tuesday night. And I can't generate a vision of that part of the property because we were all focused on the very south end of the property where the apartment buildings are going in. But there's a proposal for a road that would cut that off, coming in from the San Gobain entry on Route 3. Tom?
When we did a site walk of that area while I was still on the planning board, there was a lot of discussion about trying to incorporate the fish hatchery into the development of the property to make it a picnic area, a destination area for people to go visit, to see the waterways and things of that nature through there, to preserve the barn. But my understanding was the house was up for removal in that plan. So there's definitely plans for how to incorporate that into the entire
Okay.
mixed-use development.
Well, it might be an attractive thing to have the Historical Society's home be there for them, too.
Well, they were thinking about putting snow tractors and things of that nature in that barn. So.
Okay.
You're
As I
welcome
said,
to
I
make that
started
suggestion.
5 years
Tim
ago
Thompson-
trying to do something, and I could never find anybody to talk to.
Yeah, Tim Thompson would be the right one to get the contact information
Okay.
to talk to the folks from Flatley.
Okay.
Kevin, whatever his name is doing a lot of the
Okay.
footwork for the development there.
I mean, we've considered several other buildings along Route 3 where people will see us, where there's parking. And there are a lot of historical buildings along there, but a lot of them are not going to be available, and a lot of them would never be donated. I know Greg Michael's old place would be a beautiful place for us, but there's no way that's going to happen. We know that. We talked about the Gordon home where Levi Lowell's was, which is disintegrating rapidly from lack of care, but I know she can't afford to give it to anybody either.
Can she afford to keep
She
it?
wouldn't even let me in there to look at it because she said she's already taken everything historical out of it. She's sold the bricks from the fireplace. So I'm not having much luck, but there are a lot of nice places along Route 3 if we could get them donated and if we could afford to deal with them, including other options that we're talking about that we're not talking about. So, the other things I wanted to make you aware, the memorial to John Cromwell that's down on the Anheuser-Busch property has deteriorated due to weather conditions for a long time. It is going to be removed, repaired, and replaced. It doesn't look like the plaque itself will need to be replaced. It just needs to be refurbished. It's on a flat boulder, and it accumulates ice, snow, fertilizer, because it's in the middle of a flower garden, and the black portion background has deteriorated. So we're supposed to be having this done, but it hasn't happened yet. That Dave Brooks was going to remove it from there and take it to his place and refurbish it and then put it back on a slanted boulder instead of flat on the ground. So that's been in the works from the Heritage Funds, and it will be done, but I don't know just when because Dave Brooks doesn't have it yet. So we thought we had it worked out that he was going to go get it, but it hasn't happened yet.
And he hasn't called you?
Hmm?
He hasn't called you?
I saw Dave today.
Oh.
He said he's still waiting to work it out with the guy at Anheuser-Busch, who says, fine, just call me and we'll get it worked out, but it hasn't happened.
Okay.
So, no. At the last meeting that we held with the Heritage Commission, another proposal came up that is a very interesting one that we want to continue with, and we're just letting you know. In the north and south ends of town, there are Welcome to Merrimack signs, which were put there about 30 years ago. And the paint's peeling on them. They're an embarrassment if you want to welcome to Merrimack. So the subject was brought up of getting new signs. I know those two signs were put there by the Chamber of Commerce. I was on the Chamber at the time it happened. And I don't see them making any move to do anything better. And it's still not a really welcome sign, no matter what its condition. So we have talked with Dave Brooks again, as we've seen other signs in other towns. And today at 4:30, he brought a proposal over to me, which I have here somewhere. Two possibilities. One is 2 upright granite posts with slots in them with a 60 by 30 by 2 granite sign into that slot. It would say, "Welcome to Merrimack, 4 villages, 1 town." We found that Epsom has one that says something very similar on it, and everybody thought that was a cool idea, because we still do have 4 villages. Whether anybody knows it or not, we do. The second, that was his first choice, that would look kind of like that. His second choice is a solid base into the ground with a slot in it to put the same size on with the same wording. I think the funding would be available through the Heritage Commission to do this. He gave us costs of $1,400 or $1,800 each. He said it would be a maximum of under $3,000 for 2 of them. And that's with a 20% discount that he gives the town or the Heritage Commission. It would be more than that before that. Another option we considered is going to the chamber to see if some of them would be willing to support the purchase of these, which we can do too. So we're just letting you know that this is in the works, and we do plan to do it one way or another, whether it's through Heritage Funds, which we have the funds to do, or whether we go to the chamber or a combination of the two. But it would definitely improve the aspect of coming into this town to make it a more welcome situation.
Oh, yeah, they're horrible.
Any comments?
Those signs are
Well,
horrible.
they're 30 years old and they're unmaintained.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're going to be
Some of the
horrible.
organizations that are on it don't even exist
No.
anymore.
Which is the problem with putting those kinds of things on there.
Yes, it is.
Over time, they disappear.
Yep.
But who owns the property where they're located?
One of them is on the land of, Nashua Corporation, which isn't Nashua Corporation land anymore, I don't think. One of them is on their land, and I was sure that they would, replacing something that's already there would not be a problem. I don't know who owns the one on the north end of town.
It might be in the right-of-way because I think
It might
the
be.
road veered off to the west a little as it came up there
Yeah.
decades ago. So that may still be part of a right-of-way, I don't know.
But we may be able to find
Pardon?
another location if we need to, too. I can't think of many businesses that would object to having something like this on their land. It's
Well,
good for them.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that you sometimes need some legal protection on that
Okay.
kind of thing. Okay.
We will have to look into
So
that.
somebody will have to research how they got there and
Okay.
what if it's in the state right away, the state doesn't do things without getting some authorization.
I'm sure. Okay, I will start by going to the chamber, of which I'm a member,
Yep.
and asking them what they know, but with a new director, she may not know anything. These kind of things that happened 30 years ago sometimes get lost in the translation.
There may
the
be
last
nothing
thing,
to translate.
Yeah. So, the last thing I wanted to mention is 2 years ago, we were offered a corn crib, which is on private property over on Gauthier Road, over in South Merrimack. The man who has it there, it was given to him by Mr. Kent, who wanted it off of his land before he sold that. And it's in excellent condition, and it's a very interesting corn crib. And he wanted to know if he could move it over to the Historical Society. Well, we don't have anywhere to put something like that. So I declined his offer and said I would keep it in mind. Since then, I have been approached by people over on Farmer Road that have an ice house on their property, and they're thinking of selling their property and getting rid of the ice house. it is also in excellent condition. These are old, historic type of things that many people don't have a clue as to what they're all about. If we were to accept them, we would have to have somewhere to put them. Yes.
I suggest we move them to the highway department for your future new site. And when your new site is up, you'll have the room to put them on display.
Okay, that is a good
We have room
possibility.
at the highway department. We could find a corner and keep them there and
They'll be able to be
safekeeping
stored there safely until future time.
Until future time.
Okay. One of the things that have been mentioned is that over at Weston Park, down by the river, there's land behind, where the trails go and stuff like that, that it might be a place to put them where they would be watched by the police and stuff, where they wouldn't become an attractive nuisance to become covered bridges.
If you have an idea that you'd like to have them there, then that would be fine too. But I thought if you were looking at it because you had in the mind of moving the house, and
That could be too.
But if you'd prefer to have Weston Park, then that's something we could.
Well, there's also Wasserman.
And Wasserman.
There is Wasserman.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much people would see them there, but they might. I mean, there's a lot of room at Wasserman.
Well, there's a lot of people.
But,
It would get a lot of sites.
Yeah, and we would have to identify what they are and why they mean something. But it would also be an ideal thing to take.
Sounds like the
put
perfect
them-
job to
yeah.
work with the Parks
I'd
and
hate to
Recreation.
turn down these things and then have them destroyed, because they are historically very interesting. So,
Because you've got that area across from the community garden, it's open, where the pool used to be.
And you're going to have the Wasserman House, which is scheduled for demolition demolition.
Yep.
So you have that area right by, overlooking the hill and the swing set.
okay, that's about it. I was really just
Yep.
informing you
Okay.
of what we're thinking of and asking for some advice, because we are limited in our knowledge of what we can do and what we can't do and what we should do.
It sounds like you're very busy.
We are very busy. There's not a lot of us to be busy. Rick is our new vice president. I had to get him to come up here and sit with me, but he didn't. We are doing a lot. We did have a yard sale in August, which was very interesting. When we had to have a new light put in and the electrician came in, he climbed up into the attic thing to do the wiring and said, "Do you know that your attic is chock full?" I didn't even know it really was an attic. I just thought it was a crawl space. And we took everything down. Rick is the one who took a lot of it down. And practically nothing up there had anything to do with our history. There was a lot of stuff up there. Very interesting stuff. But we had no idea why it was up there, except that there was nowhere to put it and it didn't refer to our history, so we decided to have a yard sale and see what we could get rid of. We made about $1,000 on the yard sale.
Wow.
And we still have more left over, and I have somebody that does estate sales coming in to look at it, because I went to 4 different antique places and they're not interested. So we may be getting it out of our way and getting some profit from it and see what happens. If you know of anybody that would like a 1920 typewriter or a 1910 Singer sewing machine or things like that, and we still have about 150 books left from the Irelands. When Charlie Ireland died, one of the rooms in his home was a library. He gave all the books to us. And they've been sitting at somebody else's house because we didn't have anywhere to put them. And we sold about 50% of them at the yard sale. The rest of them are still there. Most of them have to do with the White Mountains. And there's a lot of 1880 to 1940 fiction books, which are really interesting books. While they're sitting there in boxes, I've been reading them. And then putting them back in the box. But the library didn't want them, and we had to put them somewhere. The ones that refer to Merrimack we kept. And there were some very good ones. There was a the history of the old town of Dunstable, a good, well-bound one, and what we had was one that had no binding left. So now we got a good one. So, but it's interesting. So if anybody is interested in looking at some of this stuff before it goes somewhere else, we still have the signs from the Merrimack Bike Shop. When they came off of Kessinger's, they were up in our attic. They're not in very good condition, and if all else fails, they're going to go to the dump or get burned in somebody's fire. But they're huge. The Kessinger sign was there. That's now up on our wall. But there were some interesting things up there. And I did sell one of those typewriters for $100. A parent whose son was graduating, who is a writer, and is a fanatic Stephen King person, and Stephen King writes on one of those typewriters. His father bought one of those typewriters to give him as a graduation present, and he is now using it.
Very cool.
But we still get another one. So, any questions for us?
Sounds like a Halloween project.
Yeah, or find those kids that burned the covered bridges and put them to work again. Right.
I just want to take a quick second to thank Anita. She's one of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. Just busy as can be and always muscling to get things done.
We have fun.
So,
don't we, Rick?
we appreciate it.
So, thank you for your information.
Thank you.
And thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Very much, Anita.
Okay, Kyle, you're up next. MS4 update and request to withdraw from the Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund. The EPA recently reissued several sections of the 2013 draft MS4 permit for public comment period. Public Works requests to withdraw up to $5,000 from the Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund to rejoin the MS4 coalition of towns that was formed in 2013 to comment on the draft permit. And you have an extensive portfolio. The binder's getting big.
Please don't read this
I'll try to be brief.
into the record.
Yeah. No. Thank you all for having me here tonight. As the chairman said, I'm here to talk about the latest update to the MS4 program. It's an EPA program. It stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. It's a mouthful. In 2003, Merrimack became an MS4 town under the NPDES program, which is the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit as part of the Clean Water Act. That's the genesis of all of this. When it was initially implemented, it was a 5-year permit. We're now on year 12 of the 5-year permit. In 2008, EPA issued a draft permit for public comment. There were many comments, and the final permit was never issued. In 2013, you'll recall, EPA issued another draft permit. We became part of a 20-town coalition to submit comments on that permit, and that brings us fairly up to date fairly quickly. And please ask questions if you want any more detail. Recently, in September, based on all the comments they had received back in 2013 for that draft permit, EPA reissued certain sections of the 2013 permit for public comment. That public comment period is currently open, and it closes November 2nd. What we're hoping for tonight is to get your approval to rejoin the 20-town coalition, or however many towns it turns out to be. We had a meeting last week with some of the towns from last time and the lawyers who represented us to discuss how to move forward. The lawyers who are primarily Sheehan, Finney, Bass, and Gordon out of Manchester. Thank you. And they're working with an attorney, John Hall, from Washington, D.C., who's an expert on
working on EPA issues. So they recommended a three-pronged attack, a three-pronged approach for this portion of it. The first item would be to submit comments as a coalition again to the EPA for the newly released sections. We would also, as we did in 2013, Public Works would also issue comments specific to Merrimack as well. The second step would be to work with New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to try and foster some changes in their protocols. And the reason being for that is the way this whole program is structured is the EPA, their job is to enforce the Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act itself does not have water quality standards. So the water quality standards that they're enforcing are created by New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. A lot of that data, many of the towns, us included, feel is derived from unreliable data, outdated data, and some standards that frankly just don't make sense. During the 2013 process, there was the 20-town coalition, but there was five towns who formed a mini committee, kind of an executive committee, and Rick Seymour was on that committee, to work with DES to try and make some of these changes. And we thought there was a lot of good inroads and a lot of good conversations, and we thought we were making some progress. There was a departure at DES. Time went by, comments got submitted, nothing ever changed. So the approach this time would be to get the attorneys involved in the discussions with DES to make it a more formal record, work through both DES and hopefully the political environment as well. The third step that they're proposing we should take is to work with the New Hampshire congressional delegation down in Washington to try and work with the national EPA folks to try and correct some of the issues that we have with the permit prior to it being put into effect. Once it's put into effect, our options are fairly limited, and they would be expensive, whether it's through the legal, trying to counteract some of the requirements in the draft permit, or just by accepting the terms in the draft permit. Either way, it's going to be expensive. So given the relative short time frame, I can't give you an exact cost of what our share of joining the coalition this time would be. The range they gave us at the meeting last week was between $2,500 and $5,000 to join. As a reminder, in 2013, the town council authorized $5,500 to join, and our share ended up being $4,919. I guess with that, I'll open it up for questions. I'll go into as much or as little detail as you'd care to hear.
Finley?
Thanks, Kyle. Did I understand your comments to say that we're actually, the person we're competing against is our own New Hampshire DES, because if the federal EPA is enforcing our own, why would we have that fight? What's wrong? If we have 20 towns in the past, why wouldn't it be easier to get our own state to see the problem here?
That's the great question. The answer we get from EPA is, it's all about water quality, and we agree. Water quality is important, but at what cost? And that's where working through DES is really a critical component. Getting the standards in line with other parts of the country would lessen the financial burden of what we're going to be asked to do as a municipality. Primarily, one of the chief areas that the attorneys noted was the bacteria TMDL. And just to quickly, a lot of acronyms here. TMDL is total mass daily load that's allowed of a nutrient or something else into the water body. The bacteria TMDL has many flaws in it. It was created a long time ago by folks at DES and was never intended to be an enforcement tool. It was intended to be a guide tool to how to clean up some water in the state. EPA being the enforcement agency, they don't necessarily recognize the intent. They just see their job is to enforce the standard that's in the state. Okay. So really, I can't answer your question very well as to why DES won't or hasn't worked with the towns.
Okay, I guess where I'm going is Manchester was one who had a huge potential financial impact, as I remember.
$60 million.
It was huge, right.
$60 million was reported.
So I don't know I'm not understanding the difficulty when we have communities the size of Manchester, us. I mean, there's 20 different towns that join this coalition, and I can't imagine that those numbers. Nashua.
No, but look at the Great Bay Estuary and all the.
I mean,
and that's the power of the
believe
coalition.
that with those numbers, that we should get somebody's attention at the state level to sit there and back off. Because, I mean, $5,000 for what will ultimately it will cost us if we don't put up any reasonable battle, it pales. But I just don't get it. I truly don't.
I agree.
So I don't know if it's marching up at the governor's office and sitting in her corner until she has a conversation, because this is insane. My own opinion. I shouldn't be surprised, though, I guess.
Well, I started plowing through that stuff, and this was bureaucrats run amok.
That's the
Absolutely.
point, yeah.
Doing things that were never intended or authorized under the law, and trying to finagle it into the bill into the regulations under the guise of some enforcement proceeding that they didn't have the authority to enforce anyway.
And the other problem, that's certainly a problem. The other big problem is they're trying to make a one-size-fits-all fix to water issues.
That's correct.
And you just can't do that. Merrimack, although we have a fairly good population, our density is quite rural. The one I keep throwing out there that baffles me, Concord is not in the program. I cannot figure that out. And their water from the Merrimack River comes to us. So,
It all flows downstream.
correct.
Dan?
Just a reminder, the topics that we were talking about of the Walmarts and the large acre, 3-4 acre roofs, the collection of rainwater. This is deep. This is EPA run amok, and then the state being just incompetent and lazy, not wanting to care. But those figures came from a couple of years ago, where Manchester approximately to implement all the sewer work and the collection of all the rainwater not to divert into the rivers and have to go directly to sewer treatment plants. Merrimack's estimated cost similar would be like about $6 to $10 million in comparison. And it is literally the collection of water from the sky is no longer allowed to just run down the streets and into drains and into local streams. It is the collection, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anything I'm saying you think I'm far-fetched. The overall policy stems from the collection of rainwater, and it needs to be collected and placed into the proper water recycling facilities.
The major problem from our standpoint with the permit is, again, to say the long name, it's a municipal separate storm sewer system. We're different from Manchester. Manchester has combined storm sewer and sewer systems. So they're in a whole different category than we are. But so this is it's a blanket permit that regulates our stormwater discharges into waters of the United States. And what it allows is, like the wastewater treatment plant, our wastewater plant, has a permit with EPA to discharge into the Merrimack River. It's a standalone permit for that one pipe that comes out of the plant. What this permit is the general permit that allows us to discharge out of all of our pipes under one permit. So it's a blanket permit, which the intent is good. It saves all that work from individually permitting our discharges.
But it's the infrastructure cost getting it to the plant.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest problems with all of this is there's the very first line in section 2.1.1, which is part of the re-release section. This language didn't change from the 2013 version to today's version. The permittee shall reduce the discharge of pollutants such that the discharges from the MS4 do not cause or contribute to an exceedance of water quality standards. Now, that's a really loaded statement. That means if we have any minimal phosphorus that goes into Horseshoe Pond, we're causing or contributing. We're in immediate noncompliance. If we have any E. coli that comes from one of our pipes that goes into the Merrimack River, we're in immediate noncompliance. And that's a big deal.
I think it was looking back at the minutes from 2013. I think the cost just to clean up Horseshoe Pond alone was $2.5 million, but correct me if I'm wrong. I also think you said that there was no guarantee that we'd rid Horseshoe Pond of the percentage of phosphorus that we had to get rid of.
Yeah, it's, I forget the number off the top of my head.
Well,
It was
76% in the
it was a really high number. And this is one of the difficult parts of this, the cause or contribute to cause. You take the Horseshoe Pond example. We have, I think it was 3 pipes, if I recall, that discharge into Horseshoe Pond. But there's a whole neighborhood of houses. They fertilize their lawns. They have pets. There's impairments coming from areas that the municipality doesn't own or control. And it's staggering to put that cost onto the municipality. And it's frustrating going to some of these meetings. We had the Nashua Coalition, Stormwater Coalition, met a few weeks ago, and Newton Tedder, the lead person from the EPA Region 1 in Boston, he came to answer questions on the new permit, and he's there, and there were some DES folks there, and they talk about how they don't have money and they don't have manpower. Neither do we.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part. But they look at us because we can, as a town, can generate revenue from the tax base. They see us as the pot of money to accomplish their goals.
So if I could, you talked about the loaded comment in the first section. And that section was not a part of the revision.
It was part of the 2013 draft, and it remained in this draft.
Okay,
Yeah.
but based on some of the information that I've read, one of the sentences here on a document from the EPA says, the EPA is proposing to revise only these particular draft permit requirements. So based on the entire permit, they obviously kept certain sections and revised certain sections based on the comments that not just us but other people submitted?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's one thing I did want to mention. I believe the $5,000 that we spent in 2013 from the reissued sections, from what they were 2 years ago to what they are today, the town saved magnitudes of money from that $5,000 investment, and from the larger $75,000 investment from the whole coalition. So, in my opinion, it was money well spent.
To follow up, so based on the revisions that were obviously in response to the feedback that was given, did the revisions get better or did they get worse?
They got better.
They got better.
Yeah, they're still onerous, but they did get better. One of the big things that happened between 2013 and now is there was some legislation change on the state level that allowed compliance schedules. Back in 2013, that was not allowed. So all of the costs were in that 5-year permit period. Now the costs are spread out over 15 or 20 years. So that's a big win right there, and that derived from the comments.
So the last time we talked, it was going to be spread out, so just to confirm, it's gone from 5 to
15 or 20, depending
5 to
on
15 to 20,
yeah,
depending?
Depending on which nutrient you're talking about, phosphorus, bacteria. It also allows for some more testing up front versus just being hammered with the old data that may or may not be reliable. One of the great examples we keep pointing out to DES and EPA, but they haven't listened to this point, is Babusick Lake. The Babusick Lake Association has done a number of small projects on the Merrimack side, some with Public Works help. We've assisted with some rain garden projects and little things trying to control the sediment runoff into the lake. But at Amherst, they put in the combined sewer system, combined septic system, community septic. And you look at the charts of the phosphorus content in Babusick Lake, and they've plummeted. They're just barely above the noncompliance level. But the list that EPA is using is what's called the 303D list of impairments. This permit recognizes the 2014 list. Yeah, the 2012 list, I'm sorry. The 2012 list just got approved by DES. That's what this permit recognizes. So we're already 3 years of old data at minimum. The 2014 303D list just got presented, and who knows how long before it'll be approved. One of the discussions we had with Newton Tedder, the EPA gentleman, at our coalition meeting was, well, if something falls off of the 303D list, do we come out of the permit requirement? And the answer was no. But if something gets added to the list, the town is getting added.
Of course.
It's a one-way street.
And just my last point, if I could. You talked about Amherst putting in new controls. You know, one of the things we talked about 2 years ago is because of being in the Souhegan River watershed, we're the I hate to say we're the last point of demarcation on the entire, stormwater runoff route. So no matter what the towns do, above, it's still going to filter down to us. And regardless if, like you, and I hate to use Horseshoe Pond as an example, but if you were to eliminate pets, eliminate fertilizer, totally, purify people's properties there so that you mitigate the risk of locally putting phosphorus into Horseshoe Pond, it's still gonna run off, and it's just, to me, it seems like you're creating even if you had a 15 years, it's the circle is still it's a horrible circle. It's just going to keep going round and round. You're never going to accomplish the task that they're asking us to accomplish.
One of the great points I thought that was made in the comments by the attorneys during the last round was, and this gets back to the cause or contribute for new stormwater discharges, particularly. Say we did a project that had a new discharge, and there was the smallest fraction of phosphorus in it that was going to Horseshoe Pond. We wouldn't be allowed to connect that pipe, even though the dilution from the added flow with the reduction, with the very small amount of phosphorus, would actually help the pond. But the nature with which these are written, and to Tom's point, it's all legalese, and it's all made so that there's no
it's impossible to comply. It's just impossible. Mr. Chairman,
Jody?
You'll like what I'm about to do.
Not if I beat you to it.
Okay. Oh.
She had her hand up first.
Nice.
Kyle, thank you, because your explanation helped me a great deal. This is complex and difficult
It
to
is.
understand for someone like me, and the information, the explanation for the process moving forward was very helpful to me. So thank you. And you
You're welcome.
explained it in a way that I could clearly understand it. So tonight you are looking for us to make a motion to rejoin the coalition?
Correct.
I support it. I don't see that we have a choice. So I would like to make a motion that the town of Merrimack, My first one.
Just really quickly, if I,
Work off your agenda.
You move to make a motion.
Move. You move.
Okay.
Move
I
to.
move to make a motion.
No.
You move.
You just move.
I move.
Move to withdraw up to $5,000 from the infrastructure
No,
coverage.
no. It's not a capital reserve expenditure. It's a general fund
Paul,
expenditure.
tell me what I need to
Okay.
do.
I move that the town council permits Kyle Fox and the DPW department to join the coalition for the MS4 stormwater. Help me out here, Kyle. What's it called? MS4 stormwater coalition.
I move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Dwyer.
Did I beat you to it, Dan?
You were
Is
fine.
that what you're going to do?
That was exactly what I was going to do.
Okay.
And I don't need to speak to my motion. I think it's self-explanatory. Thank you.
And just to friend, up to $5,000.
Up to $5,000.
I need to speak to mine. I second, because I always, everybody, we second everybody's motion, and up or down. But I don't support it, because I think it's just one big circle, lawyerly, bureaucratic mess. It's 5,000 money down a rat hole. This is my rebellious stance against the EPA, Washington, our own DES. No good will come of it. We'll be here back in another year and another year. They can never enforce these silly requirements that are going on. So,
Can you do that? Make me write
yeah,
the
can they
check?
make me write the check to buy $6 million worth of infrastructure improvements? They can't. They just don't have the power or the will to force cities and towns to implement this insane policy. But we keep, towns get together and they feel good and they hire guys in nice suits and they go to their dinners and they talk. All the bureaucratics. I mean, it's a boondoggle. It's a
I
lawyer
don't know that
boondoggle.
that I would want to say that they all get together because it makes them feel good. I think that's a little bit oversimplification.
You're good at that, though.
I appreciate what you're saying, Dan, but I really think that the towns that join this coalition see the value, and I think probably it's an information gathering opportunity as well. So.
Finley?
And I get it, and I agree with you. However, people don't do that. I mean, they will comply, and if we don't, because everybody else will comply, we're going to be an easy target.
You can't comply. It's impossible.
No, but they'll make us trust.
You really can't win.
Well,
They wrote the laws where you can't win.
and I get it, but I think that Kyle's point of where we have in fact saved money with the changes that they've already made to it, if 5,000 can buy some more, I think regulatory authority is the most evil thing in the world because it has the same weight as law, and it just kills me. So, anyhow.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5 in favor, 1 opposed. Counselor Dwyer in opposition. Motion carries.
I appreciate that too, by the way.
Thank you, Kyle.
I know you.
Kyle,
thank you, guys.
A lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute. Go ahead. We've been at it for 3 hours. Take a break.
I asked the chair during the break. I'd forgotten to say something during my account manager report, and I just wanted to tell you one thing very quickly. Last week we went to the St. Gobain 350-year anniversary celebration. It was amazing. The food was really great, and a lot of people came. the various council members came, a lot of people from town hall and everything like that. But what was really fascinating about it is the story that they told about how they began. And it was, they were a glassmaker in Italy and in the 1600s. And they had come up with a method by which to make mirrors, which nobody could do at that time, and mirrors were just not available. And so the King of France kidnapped them and brought them to France, and they made mirrors for the Queen to see her dress, and also they built all the mirrors in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, and that was their first job. So I just thought that was really fascinating. It's a really great company. If you ever get a chance to meet them, and go over and take the tour with them, it's just a really interesting company, and it's right here in Merrimack. On to the budget. This is something, as you know, that we do every year, and we try and get some idea of where you want us to go with the budget. We know certain things at this point that we know are going to increase or not increase and that kind of thing. We've identified actually dollar amounts in a sheet, in a slide going forward. But so the things that we know, we got our guaranteed maximum rate. GMR stands for guaranteed maximum rate on health insurance, which was 6.4% for us. We had anticipated that we might do better than that, but then we realized that it's several years that they take into consideration and not just the past year. And the reason why we thought that we might do a little bit better is because we've changed the health insurance, although that just started on June 1st. So, so anyway, that's the guaranteed maximum rate. There's no increase to the New Hampshire retirement contributions. It's the second year of their they come up with a two-year percentages every 2 years. So this is the off year. Increase in property and liability, 9%, which equates to about $20,000. Increase in workers' comp, about 9% as well. And then we have 6 unions contracts set to expire on June 30th, 2016. No increase to electric rates because Paul has signed on to a contract, long-term contracts. Same thing with natural gas. No increase. We have a 53rd week of payroll this year. I know. So that's about 170 some odd thousand, or 150 something thousand. And another big one is we lost our insurance rate rebate that we've been enjoying for the past couple of years from the Health Trust. This past year we had budgeted receiving about $300,000, and we're going to get nothing this year, or just a small amount. So that affects where the tax rate's going, obviously, by $300,000. At this time, we're not proposing any new staffing. Some of the things that we would like to, one of the things that we'd like to get some direction from you on is the highway garage. Couldn't really get a sense from the way that the goals were written up from Primex when we did our retreat as to what you want to do. Do you want it on the ballot this time, and do you want it changed in some way? So, anyway, I was, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't really want it. I don't want an answer. That way the time runs out, and we don't have to do it. So, state revenues, rooms and meals is, it's they're starting to mess with the rooms and meals a little bit. Those are the rooms and meals and the highway block grant are our two largest amounts of money that we receive, and really basically the only money we receive from the state every year. And the highway block grant, what happens almost every year and has for as long as I can remember, they give us an amount that we're going to get for the highway block grant, and they actually insert that number into our tax rate calculations. And then on the fourth quarter, they send in the payment, send in a notice saying that we dropped it by $50,000 or something like that. So the state has required us to raise the money for it, and then at the last quarter, they renege on a part of it. So, that's always a question. Fortunately, it's never such an enormous amount that they monkey around with that it affects, our total revenue picture. So again, 6 union contracts, and believe it or not, we get a town-wide property revaluation. Don't we love those? That's coming up. We do them every 5 years, as you know. Believe it or not, 5 years has come. Yeah. Although we've been saving money in capital reserve for that, and we have enough money to do it, so it's not an added expense. So the other thing we have to think about is the town's commitment to paving and funding the capital reserve funds, which we'll get into in a little bit. So Paul has quantified these the amounts of actual money associated with the items that I just listed. The health insurance increase, 6.4% guaranteed maximum, is only $88,000. It would normally be much more than that, but the reason why it's only $88,000 is because our census, what I call the census, has changed. So there's a lot more single employees, and just one change can make a difference of $20,000. So if somebody retires and they had a family plan and somebody comes in new and they have a single plan, that's $20,000 for that one employee. So anyway, we even though it's 6.4%, since that other component changed, it's only $88,000 instead of much more. Capital reserve funding increase. We have projected out our capital reserve purchases that are needed. As we know, prices are going up for trucks and various things like that. And we're still trying to catch up from those years when we put in $300,000 into the capital reserve fund and spent $1.5 million. So we're still trying to catch up with that, and so we've put in there another $184,000, which represents funding evenly of various things. So we've looked at the capital reserve report and projected that out with the various expenses, and that would require us to put $184,000 more in the capital reserve fund this year and going forward as well. Property and liability increase, not a very much amount of money, under $20,000. 53rd week of payroll, $173,000. Revenue decrease, which goes into the into the bag for the health trust that we're not going to be getting. All those things add up to 26 cents. Then we don't have the union contract in there. And usually another thing that we do is we put in new construction value, because we don't, we try not to inflate the amount of money because somebody's house is worth X amount of dollars this year, and because the market changed, it's worth Y next year. We try not to put that amount of money. We try to put in new construction value and quantify that with a dollar amount, because it's basically new money. which affects the tax rate. So here's something that I like to do every year and bore you to tears with. When I first got here, as I said, the capital reserve funds were very, very depleted, and we talked about making a commitment to put a minimum amount of money into the capital reserve funds and use that kind of as our measuring stick of how we're doing. Are we standing true to our word so that we can, so we can actually fund these things? Because for a while there, we were putting money into the capital reserve fund one year and spending it in the same year. So what's the point of that? The point is to save money for an expenditure coming out into the future. So here was our, the projected 13-14 was kind of like our yardstick, and we were a minimum. You can see the under the general fund, $1,060,000 was our minimum just for the general fund, and what we're estimating in 16-17, which is the upcoming year budget, is $1.575 million. So we're keeping up with our capital reserve funds, and because it's very often very easy to dig into those or to neglect funding them in order to reduce the tax rate, and it doesn't really save you money. So that's where we are, and does anybody have any comments about what you want us to do?
Parks and Rec revolving fund.
Yeah, it's underway.
We've been working, Matt and I have been working with it. We're getting the language to come forward to Eileen for her review.
Okay.
And so we're working on looking at a revolving fund for Parks and Recreation.
All right.
Tom, just when you say that, you mean because it would be new?
Yeah.
That fund has not been in the budgets of past.
Well, no, we have to. It requires a vote to establish it, and that's what it's for. And there's no, there's no real appropriation for it. What goes in can get taken out without further action or inclusion in the budget. So then one of the things we set up was that one of the things we wanted Matt to do was to develop programming that could be as close to self-funding as possible. And we can't do that without the revolving fund. Yeah. Good.
If I had a question about staffing, would now be an appropriate time to, because I was curious about the fire department. We had talked about that before.
Well, we are looking at that. A lot of data has been accumulated, but I have not had the time to analyze it personally. So I've assigned that to Paul and to the fire chief to analyze the data of the calls and the various things, and it has to be looked at with a financial eye rather than a different emotional eye. So I'm not really sure how that's going to be. I said to the chief today that we probably didn't have enough time to gather enough convincing data to move it forward this upcoming year. But I said I would be willing to increase his overtime budget to make up for that. One of the things that happens is Paul has been trying to get an answer as to how much money adding a firefighter, which is actually 4, would save in overtime, and they say nothing, but that's not so. So, you have to like pull information out. And the reason why that is because they have 9, is it 9? They have 8 guys on a shift, and if they are given a 9th person, they now think that there's mandatory a minimum of 9, and that's what they staff to. So then there's no, and it's difficult to convince them otherwise without watching it like a hawk. So, anyway.
So we might have some more information to at least discuss and look at when we're actually in the budget?
Yeah, if
Okay.
we have that information, it's something that I'm considering bringing forward. He's asking for 4 people.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Philly?
Eileen, in scrutinizing all this data and so on, the chief had brought in probably, 4 or 5 years ago now, these great charts, 24-hour. I'd not seen them like that. I like it, though, because it's very visual. Yeah, so will we be taking that into account as far as staffing, and might that work during negotiations and so on?
The chief last week or the week before, I can't remember, gave me a USB drive with all that data on it. I have to sit down, plug it in, look at it, go through it, talk to the chief and the assistant chiefs of what really is being said, but there is all that data on it.
Because that, back when I saw that the first time, I thought it'd be perfect. It would be a perfect tool for putting those things together.
2010.
Was it 2010? Yeah, 5 years ago. So, because from a staffing standpoint, that's where we might be able to tackle overtime issues and so on. And I'm very interested in that.
As am I. It's just, it was something that I had on my schedule to do this year, and I just can't do everything, I mean. So I gave it to Paul.
Perfect. Pull more of that air out.
Dan?
But in a simplistic universe, your recommendation already is saying no staffing increases. In order to even just come at 26 cents, your recommendation, without having any more input from the fire department or anything else, we're at 26 cents going into this year's budget, and your recommendation is no staff increases.
I think I put kind of squishy language in there, so I didn't say
Didn't seem squishy.
no.
No?
I don't think it says,
Didn't-
at this time it said.
Oh, okay.
See,
All right.
we wanted to
So-
add, we added that.
Weasel words.
Weasley.
I do recommend, not just singling out you, Jody, because you mentioned it, but any other counselor, if we feel like their department is underfunded, undermanned, it's in a contract year, the ballot's always a good place to go to. We can always ask the four firefighters roughly would be almost $500,000. We know what the price increase. We know what it's going to cost. When you add in the benefits and the pay and everything, we're talking 4 guys. It's $400,000. It's not or more. So I mean, we can have an honest discussion about it, and then how we all feel about it, we can ask the town how they feel about it and put it on the ballot.
I brought it up because I don't have personal knowledge of their staffing. I'm really far too green to understand how it works and whether they're adequately staffed or not. We had a fairly lengthy discussion at our retreat about it, so that's why I brought it up. Thank you.
And I'm not trying to be divisive when I say I can tell you that it's not adequately funded. It's not adequate based on the federal guidelines. Neither is our police department.
What federal guidelines?
I mean, if you go by, they said our town has. There's a book out there. If you have a town so big, so many people, you're supposed to have this many firefighters, this many cops.
Right, no, I get the difference. I get it. Yep.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
No, he's kidding. Well, he's serious.
I
but
asked
he's
for a
kidding.
second. There's no second. So we're moving on.
Yes. And you always have.
Bill?
Last year we had a tough winter. I just want to make sure that we're adequately making sure,
Already put it in.
okay. And I'd like
I
to-
sent out, what would happen is early this week, I do all the calculations for staffing, for insurances, for things of that sort. I look at overtime over the past several years. I send that out to their departments for their review and their thing. Well, when I sent out the highway department's budget, I increased the overtime line for highway because we have been overspending it in the last couple of years for snow. And so I looked at a 3 to 5 year average, and we take the 3 to 5 year average, and then that's what we try to budget. So that has come forward already when we look at things, and they are aware of it. And the DPW and the Highway Division, when they do their budget, if they think they need more money, they will always put more money in for overtime, and then we could look at it for that way.
And just for you, Jody, the budget that you will receive will have several different columns. One, it'll be several actual years, and then there'll be a budget year, and then another budget year.
No, this current budget year.
Current budget.
Current budget year, department's budget, town manager's budget.
Yeah, so you'll always see the department's request, and I've always instructed them to make their pitch for whatever it is that they think that they need to you, so it doesn't get filtered through me.
That's great, thank
Okay.
you.
Well, it's, no slide. Just talking budget schedule.
Tom?
So did you have any guesstimates on revenue for next year? I know we saw an increase in auto registrations and things of that nature. You talked about all the increases in expenses. Do we expect any changes in revenue?
Maybe a little bit in motor vehicles, but it's so hard to really tell. It's always kind of a surprise when at the end of the year. So we try and be as accurate without being overestimating the amount, because that would not be good. So I would think that we could add a couple of $100,000 to that, which we didn't. It's a good point, because we didn't put that on there.
It's something we can look at, and the departments will review it, and we'll take the first quarter numbers for auto registration and see where they are this year compared to the last 2 years. And if they're still growing, then we can definitely put some money there.
Because I think we had $3.8 or $3.9
Almost
million
$3.9,
in there
Correct.
for a budget, and I think it ended up being 4.4 this past year. So that was one of our big increases, but we haven't seen that in years.
Right.
No, that's
but that's a
pre-recession.
good
Those
point.
are pre-recession numbers.
Yeah, so, but, it's the
But
third
there's a
year.
lot of incentive. The automakers are offering a lot of incentives, so that's why these cars are turning over.
Right. And this is the third year, so this would be a good year to compare it to, because, as you know, values go down with the car, so this would be a good year to see where we stand to get a
When would the
price on that.
property values that are out of the revaluation be used?
They would be used for December 2016. So the revaluation will start occurring. We have a next November, Lauren Martin, our assessing coordinator, our contract assessor, will be coming in front of the council to discuss the revaluation. We'll start the process in January, and it'll go basically most of the year through, and then those values will be used for the MS1 that is filed with the state in September.
So, as you know, the first bill is just an estimate bill. The one that you get in June or July is just an estimate bill, and then what they do is they take your new value times the new tax rate and multiply those together, and then subtract out what you already paid. So.
When does the new value go into effect? I thought it was April 15th or something.
Its values as of April 1st, but they don't get
April 1st.
they don't get incorporated until you do the MS1, which is up to the state
tax
for
rate
September,
calculation.
and then December is the one when that all gets incorporated into the December tax bill.
Yeah, well,
It's the value. They determine the value, what the value would be as of April 1st. But So if something was built in June or July, it wasn't April 1st, so it wouldn't be included, even though that the valuation number, it would be included in the valuation number because it has to be from April 1st.
So if we do the revaluation through the year, when does those new revaluations take effect?
They take effect as of April 1st.
2016?
Yes, because there's a whole, she can explain it more, but there's a when we do the revaluation, they do comparable sales, they do a bunch of other things, they do
I think you're
drive-through.
misunderstanding him.
But yes.
It's the
it's as of
December
April.
bill that you'll see it next December 2016. You'll see
But when
the
are you
new
going to tell
value
people
in.
what their new values
In
are?
in the summer.
Before April 1st?
No.
No?
After
Can't
April
be,
1st.
because it's as the value as of April 1st,
Right.
as close as we can get it.
Usually they've run the hearings, usually they've had appointments between
August, July.
July and August, and sometimes into September. Sometimes into September, thank you. So people can come in and discuss what their property values are. But the reason I asked the question is that it adds another level of uncertainty. When you're sitting there trying to do a tax rate or try to contemplate a tax rate, because you don't know where those values are going to end up. And you can't use the old thing of one-third, one-third, one-third up, one-third down, one-third unchanged. It doesn't work that way anymore. At least that's been my experience lately. But,
When I, as I was saying to you earlier, when I come up with numbers for you, especially in a year of revaluation, I try and just use new construction numbers to determine what the spending
Right.
level might be. So it's not just the same old money, but spread around differently. It's just actually new value. So I can give you the new tax rate numbers, but then, based on new
tax
construction.
rate estimate numbers.
Yeah.
Right, so.
But that's another compounding factor that that we're going to have to keep in the back of our head as we go forward, is that, those kinds of numbers can change, those values can change, even though there's new construction.
When we did it the last time, was kind of scary because I think we were at 115%. We were supposed to be at 100%, and our total value for the town was at 115%. And so all of those values went, not all of them, but they went down approximately 15%, the value. And I believe that we're now at 100% or 101, or
We're at 94 right now.
we're at 94. So the values will be going.
Some values might be potentially going up. But we were also, when we did the revaluation 5 years ago, we were in the midst of a recession. And now we're coming out of the recession, and that's
As we
why.
know, when values go up,
Up,
the tax
tax
rate
rate
goes
goes
down,
down.
and when values go down, the tax rate goes up. But what matters to people is what their bill is.
Right.
Right,
And
and ultimately,
Go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
was just going to say, I don't know how things are commercial industrial versus residential, but
Right.
the big problem we had years ago was the condo market and commercial industrial plummeted hard. And residential went down, but maybe 30%. Everything else was doing 50% and even more at times. And that puts a huge impact on the one who went down at a lesser rate. I mean, real
Right,
money.
yes.
Right.
So if everything is kind of
Even.
ebbing and flowing evenly, then, your value might be a little bit higher than your neighbor's where the last time it was opposite. But, so that really isn't a real problem. It's when it's the crazy changes over, different sectors.
Well,
that
the
becomes a problem.
last cycle, the commercial industrials went up slightly.
Yeah.
And
They've
that's a help for residential.
stabilized. They've stabilized. When it was back in the 90s, man, it was all over the
It
place.
was.
For now, those
cut my
seem
teeth
to
on
have
those years.
stabilized.
Yes, it has.
So anyway, unless you have any specific direction, we'll just proceed as always.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Kind of ties into it, the budget schedule. First meeting and first Thursday in December, we'll be back to give the presentation and the overview to the council on the budget. You'll have about a month with the budget books in your hand. We're starting the budget presentations by departments on January 7th. We'll do the 7th, and then the 11th will be two groups coming in. You'll have a regular scheduled meeting on the 14th. The 18th, which is Martin Luther King Day, there will be no budget here. Martin Luther King Day. On the 18th, we will not have any.
Martha Luther King.
It's 11:15. Motion to adjourn.
So we'll.
Non-debatable. We're out of here.
The second came from the audience.
We have to vote.
No, it didn't.
I said so.
Thank you, Mike.
I gave a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So, and then the 21st will be the last grouping of departments to come forward. That following Monday, we'll start the budget, the budget talks and the final deliberations by the council. The major date for the council to remember is that the deliberative session this year has moved from the second Wednesday of March for the town to the Thursday. There was a conflict with the school because of the way the school's deliberative session runs. They'll be on the Tuesday, and the 8th and 9th will be their deliberative sessions. Our deliberative session will be Thursday, the 10th, with our snow date being the 11th. And those are the big dates, is the March deliberative session.
We'll write that all up.
And it's all there, and there'll be in your budget books, always the first couple pages of your budget books is the budget schedule, so you'll have that. And
The 1 year in about every 5 or 6 when we're in the same week.
right, because of the way the leap year pushed it. So, and it was still, we're condensing the departments to 3 meetings. I think that worked well the last couple of years. And if you have any questions or any suggestions of later on, if you want to change anything, just let me know. But there is some time in there, and we did try to build in a snow day or two. But we have to have everything done by the end of January.
Okay. Thank you. Any desire to do minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes of September 10th.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Any additions, deletions, corrections?
I had a question, and maybe I missed it or something like that, but on line 34 of page 1, it says Chairman Harrington informed the viewing audience of 2 agenda items that would be delayed. Normally by delayed, I would expect it to be later in the meeting or something like that, but I'm guessing that those were postponed or pushed off to some other time or something. So
Right.
there, and several times through the minutes, they talk about this item was delayed. And it seems like it ought to say postponed or something to that effect.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anything else on the minutes of the 10th?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, page 8, line 30 and line 32. The application's called SQL, but it's technically spelt with capital letters SQL.
Okay. Anything else?
On page 17, line 43, motion was made by Councilor Boyd and seconded by Councilor Dwyer. I'm sure he likes having his own council.
Well, he keeps his own for a
Oh,
while.
this is true. This is true. So it should read Councilor Dwyer. And that's all I was able to locate.
Anything else? All in favor of the minutes of September 10 as amended?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0-0. Oh,
Abstain.
Mr. Rothhaus abstains, sorry, 5-0-1.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Thursday, September 24th, 2015 Town Council meeting minutes with the following modifications.
Second.
Page 2, line 31, Lieutenant Kilkelly's name is misspelled. And on page 10, in honor of our chairwoman, who is not here tonight, line 2, I am again Counselor Body, not Counselor Boyd.
Not? Really?
The body belongs to Jesse Ventura. I actually prefer the mind.
Oh, wow, yeah, it's late.
That's all I was able to find.
Anyone else?
I have a couple, Tom. On page 7, line 7 and 8, it said Counselor Valancourt questioned. I believe it was Counselor Rothaus that questioned. And I later commented that Counselor Rothaus had asked the question that I had, so.
Okay.
Page 9 of 18, I believe, line 21, Counselor Valancourt noted the town, I think it should be the town council. There's a lot of discussion back and forth about council attorney and council us, but I believe this one is council us, so it should be changed.
Okay, so you dropped the possessive and
Yep,
changed to
that's-
CIL.
Yep.
Good catch.
And page 10 of 18, line 27, it starts on line 26. Counselor Valancourt's, she commented the council needs to be careful because they're moving the route. Could we just clarify, she commented the council needs to be careful because they're suggesting or supporting a route that moves it away from their neighborhood could very well impact another neighborhood. And I caught Counselor Body.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's it for me, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? 6-0-0. Comments of the press, as usual. Public? Council?
I'd like to ask everybody to join me in welcoming James Christian Alaconis into the world at 7:30 this morning.
Congratulations.
My second grandchild.
Wow,
That's the coolest thing in the world. He was 20 inches, 7 pounds, 5 ounces. He wasn't due till the 29th, but decided he couldn't wait to get here soon. So, Aaron had, well, things relative, I'm sure, had a pretty easy time about it. So we're thankful for that. And she, last night about 10, called and said, I think I'm in labor. And then she called back and said, nah, it's a fake. It's not real. And then I think it was about 4 in the morning, she went in to Elliot, and at 7:30 he was here. And I was in the diner with little Michael, and my phone was in the van, so I didn't even have a clue. So, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't. I wanted to tell you tonight. Sorry about that. So, but anyway, thank you. It's it's the reason for being. I'm totally convinced of that. That's what the wait is for. You know, the best.
What are you going to do if he grows into a Canadians fan?
Oh, that won't happen. As a matter of fact, I do have to say that now is the tradition in my family. I bought his first pair of shoes today, also, which were skates. So Michael didn't wear them until he was 15 months, and at the town rink he's been skating already. So James will be doing the same thing, so. James Christian Alacotis.
Congratulations, Finley.
Thank you for bearing with me.
Ms. Geller.
I have a couple quick things I needed to share.
Okay.
I wanted to thank all the different departments for their regular updates. The police department especially, they're really good about updates, and Public Works gives us updates, and all the departments that give us updates on a regular basis. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. The Conservation Commission met on October 5th, and we were presented with the detailed environmental impact statements, and I always call him Jeff Littleton, but the name of his business is Moosewood Ecological. So we had the environmental impact studies for Horse Hill Nature Preserve, Gilmore Hill Memorial Forest, and he also did one for the MVD property. So it is videotaped if you're interested and you want to watch it. There's an awful lot of information. Some of the properties are similar in the things that they contain, but Gilmore Hill, there's a couple of very, very unique, rare species that we have in Merrimack, but it was very interesting. There will be great impacts if this pipeline goes through Horse Hill and Gilmore and MVD property. There will be very, very great impacts. So I encourage you to take some time and try to watch his reports to the Conservation Commission, because I think it's all information that you all need. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was we this week had received some communication that the superintendent of schools had, among other conversations, budget related, with our finance director, assistant town manager, about the school resource officer at the middle school. And I know it was going to be on their agenda for this past Monday, so I watched that to see what their discussion was about, and I'm glad that I did. There's, again, it's partway through. You can fast forward if you want to catch it to hear what they have to say, but there are specific guidelines. You guys all know the grant has all these stipulations, and there's a lot to the grant that's very specific. But the thing I think that's driving some of this conversation right now, the timing, is because year 7 requires that the town, and the town includes the school district and the town, and all the community members that have bought into, like, Merrimack Safeguard, that we have some kind of a sustainability plan, and a lot of that has to do with money. So year 7 is the year. They're in year 6 right now. So we all, as a town, need to start planning. So it is prudent to have that discussion now. When they had some of their discussions back and forth, one of the things they said was that they were interested in having a conversation with the town council, whether that be at a joint meeting or whether there's an agenda item and the school board comes to our meeting to discuss